right, people, let's roll it back one more time. We are going to go across the Spider-Verse and dig into what makes the 90s so dark and broody as we talk about Ben Reilly Spider-Man. And we're going to get into the latest adventures, of course, for Miles and Gwen and everybody else in the biggest movie in the world right now, Across the Spider-Verse, which I'm thrilled to do with y'all. But before we do all that, we have some other stuff that we're going to talk about that, you can listen to, or if you're not here live, you can see it. Whichever. I'm, of course, Sparks Witty. It is episode 330, and I'm joined by Ryan Eliopoulos.
Hello, hi. I'm buzzing with spider love today.
And Ben Magnet.
I was trying to think of a Legend of Zelda pun to throw in with Spider-Man, but can't think of it. Sorry.
I'm sure we'll talk plenty about Zelda in the near future, like mere 10 minutes from now. Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon
Thwip.
T. McClure. Sorry. Thwip, indeed. Hey, guys. I'm just going to toss it to you, Brandon. You can go ahead and take us in.
Yeah, hi guys, how's it going? I hope you guys had a good week. We are back with another episode. Is it any surprise at this point?
Not for me. I see it on the schedule.
It's
Let's talk
almost
about
like it's been 7 years.
Let's talk about some links. We do have some links.
You mean this one?
Oh, you did it. You did it.
Audio listeners, I'm holding up my special 30th anniversary Link amiibo.
What do you get with it? What do you get in the game?
I got some meat in a treasure chest, but I haven't been doing the amiibos every day, so I should probably do that next time I play.
Every day. You
I
can do it every day.
I saw one video, but is it true that you can kill all your islanders in Animal Crossing and turn them into meat in Tears of the Kingdom?
That's not real, but it is
by using their amiibo cards?
It is a real video, but that's not what actually happens. He just made an island. Ben, you need to find that video on TikTok. It's every time he puts an amiibo on, he does a bunch of them, and then he goes to his island and he recreated a graveyard for his entire island. It's really funny. And he's like, I'm sorry, I was worth those 5 steaks.
I didn't dig into it, and I was like, that doesn't feel like that's true, but it is funny.
The type of synergy that Nintendo simply does not have with each other, but that is it's just a really great video.
But Animal Crossing amiibos do give you meat.
Yes.
Dark.
It's it is really funny. And the Zelda Wolf amiibo for Twilight Princess also gives you a bunch of meat, and I'm like, what are you doing, Nintendo? What's going on?
You mean this one?
Yeah. You're giving me a bunch of steaks.
No, I did, because last time when I played Breath of the Wild, you had to keep tapping the amiibo so you could get the armor from Twilight Princess. But apparently all the armor from Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and I want to say the original Legend of Zelda, they're in the game already. You just have to go find them, and they're hard as shit to find.
Yeah, you can get them through chance with amiibos, or you can just play the game. That's what's kind of nice. Is they're not limiting it to you have to spend money on amiibos. Yeah. It's just hey, it's kind of like a little cheat.
Yeah, especially since this one particularly is my wolf amiibo is maybe $30-$40 loose.
You
Brandon,
know what?
Links?
Well, you know what, Ben? This is very late, but I had this queued up, and before you guys went on a funny tangent, so I'm gonna do it anyway. This is what you get. I forgot to take the loop off. That's what I get for not paying attention. Cool. Okay, yeah, we do have some links. Obviously, the Writers' Strike, the Writers Guild of America link, the strike info is there. We're surprise, going to be talking a little bit about it again today. So, Sparks put up a couple of cinephiles for us. Those are linked below if anyone wants to check those out, including our Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse review, which we had originally reviewed when the movie came out with our friend, the Key Thief, Jen Lundstrom.
So long ago.
It was a long time ago. So there was no video component to that, but so it's an audio video that you can watch or listen to or whatever. It is still on the Fickner podcast feed for those of you interested in just kind of re-downloading it and be like, oh, I wonder what they thought of that. But for YouTube watchers, it's there.
Yeah, Brandon and I went back and forth about this because generally when we do the cinephiles, part of the point is extracting it from the podcast so that you can just listen to the review. Spider-Verse was a review special when we initially did it, so there is nothing to extract it from. So in the audio feed, it remains back in 2018 where it was. But for YouTube, we put up a video version.
Hey man, sometimes it's different audiences.
Then the Indiana Jones discussion has wrapped up. We wrapped it up a couple of weeks ago, but now it's available as a cinephiles for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
So you can check those out. Linked below.
Audio and video. Whoop, whoop.
Audio and video, yes. So last week we had a little bit of a mini Basement Arcade pause menu that has been extracted from that episode and put on the Basement Arcade pause menu audio and video feed. For those of you interested in checking that out, that is linked below as well.
My rule is if we cross 40 minutes, it goes as its own thing.
Here's the thing, y'all. Like, I thought we were going to talk about this for a short thing, and I saw on YouTube it was 51 minutes. I'm like, what? That's like good conversation just flies by. Like that
Yeah,
was.
it does.
I can't believe it was that long.
That's this episode. That's this podcast. It's just this time just flies by.
It's true.
Then Ben.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about D and Dark now or after me?
After.
All right, so I got a conversation episode out this week. My conversation episode is with Cookie from Just a Little Podcast, who is unfortunately at this moment in time no longer podcasting. Importantly, this is the last interview I did before 2023. So like I did 4 interviews in 2022 and then the rest in 2023. This is the last one from 2022, so the rest will be a little bit more up to date, a little bit more relevant. But Cookie is a great guy. You know, we all love Cookie. He's wonderful. And he stepped away from podcasting because he's having a child. Congratulations once again. And I got a chance to sit down with him and just talk about his fandom journey and, you know, what he thinks about the kind of new generation coming up, what he thinks about, it's just an interesting discussion, I think, about Harry Potter that we have. Yeah. Check it out. I don't want to give it all away, but yeah, it's a fun episode. I really enjoyed doing it. Check it out. It's linked below.
It's a solid episode. Cookie's great.
He shared it in the because I'm still in the downright annoyed like group because like I used to be part of a group thing that no longer exists.
They mentioned it in the episode.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm gonna listen to it when I work next, which is on Tuesday. So there you go. But Cookie posted like, "Hey, here's my conversation." I'm like, I said, "Screw that baby, Cookie's back," and they got a little giggle.
I will say, Ben, have you listened to it yet?
Not yet, but I will.
Well, I'm going to drag Brandon just for a second because
Do it.
I thought it was very funny. I told him that it was a joke when I called him out on it. But so he goes out of his way in his intro to specify that he's like, at the time of recording, I said fiance and girlfriend, but Ben's now got a fiance. So I'm correcting that here. But he didn't correct the fact that he still said fiance for me and now is my wife. Which I think is so funny that he zeroed in on being like, I gotta cover the fact that Ben now has a fiance, not a girlfriend. And I'm like, I have a wife. I got married. You were there.
It's not the same.
Yeah, that's what I get for writing that episode at 2 a.m. There's a couple of there's a couple of fun bits that intro ended up being because it was so late that I, you know, after a while my fingers just kept typing and I was not at the wheel anymore.
Yeah, it was just funny to me because I was like, it's something you didn't even have to do, and then the way you did it, I was like, wait.
Ben, are you all right? You look confused.
No, I'm fine because for a second you froze and I thought you were like your connection went bad.
Oh,
no, he's cool. He's cool to us.
All right, cool. It's probably.
Could you still hear me?
Not for a hot second, but it's all good.
Oh, okay. So I would listen back to this and maybe I'll sound good. All right, Ben, talk about D and Dark episode 29.
Yeah. You know, I'm even a part of the show. I don't even know what episode we're on, to be honest, because I just see, hey, new episode's up. I listen to it, and then I just re-listen to all the shenanigans we went to with all the added special effects that Dan throws in. This is
29, yes.
Up 29, yeah. And this is the episode where myself, Victor Frankenstein, and everyone else were going through the dungeon to get some parts for Gore, the brain in the jar. And Gore's not really on the up and up, if you know what I mean. So
no. The brain?
Yeah. I know, right? You just can't trust giant floating brains in jars anymore.
When could you?
I don't know. Actually, that raises a really good point. When could you trust a giant floating brain in a jar? I have no freaking idea. But yeah.
I mean, that's Sarah Jessica, isn't it? Oh no, that's her. She's attached to a tool. It's different. Sorry.
I was talking about the aliens themselves.
Oh yeah, but they're not good. You can't trust them.
No,
they're
they
different. Sure.
They vaporize you. But yeah. We go through the dungeon and more shenanigans, of course, are abound. Definitely give it a listen. It's a good time.
All right, so all those links are down below in various audio and video formats. You can, Brian.
Sorry, I just want to say, it's probably the hardest I've laughed at work recently. Ben is hearing Victor talking about your fat ass, but it's his fault because he made it that way. And I'm just like, what a really funny thing. And I just like laughed at work, and I'm like, there's people around me, I can't do this.
I particularly liked when they're like, Emotep's trying to get Phantom to dig through the pile of trash, and he's like, I put my hand on my gun.
I just love, now that these episodes are coming out and the whole writer's strike is happening, when he's telling his unseen servants to do it, and his unseen servants are now unionized, and every time Phantom casts that spell, he has to like fill out union paperwork. It's just the funniest shit.
It's a good gag.
Yeah. Even when we were like trying to hold hands so we can like lessen the psychic blast from Gore, and then Victor is all like, "Why doesn't anyone want to hold my hand?"
It's a good show, Ben.
Thank you. I love the show.
Okay, that's all the links below. Be sure to check them out, please. Who wants to go first with their week?
I'll go first because guess what? I only have one thing to talk about. It rhymes with it's The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. What else can I say? I mean, I've been talking about this game for weeks. Ryan has been talking about this game for weeks.
How many hours? Do you know how many hours you're in?
I haven't looked. I was definitely up because inside baseball. Last night we recorded a base market for KO City because this was the last weekend that the servers were up and running. The servers are going to go down in like a few days. And after we were done playing that, not 20 minutes later, I went to go play Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. And next thing I realize, I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom, I'm doing all this stuff, and then I hear birds chirping outside. And then when Fanny comes home from work and she's like, "Hey, how late were you up playing Tears of the Kingdom last night?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it." She's like, "Were the birds chirping?" I'm like, "Maybe," because it gets you right back into the thing. And there's so much to explore, and mostly I've been exploring Hyrule, like the base Hyrule map again. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's like I'm back home. Like way back in 2017 when I first played Breath of the Wild, I was like, man, I'm exploring all this again even though it's not for the first time. It's just like, oh yeah, I remember this bit. Oh yeah, I remember go over here. And I also remember how much I hated the Hebra Mountains because I hate climbing the mountains. They suck. But but then there's more stuff to explore, all the different caves to explore. Like even I was exploring a cave. I was like, oh, I could explore a cave. It shouldn't take 5 minutes. 15 minutes later, the notification pops up from Brandon. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those games where like you think you're gonna play for a little bit and then like you blink and it's considerably more hours later and you're like, that's just really impressive.
It's just continuing to be the best just one more thing game, just like Breath of the Wild. Like, oh, I'll just do one more shrine. Oh, I'll go and open up the next tower. Oh, I'll just fill out this next part of the map. Oh, hey, I'll do this next side quest. That side quest was quick. I'll do another side quest. Because sometimes you fulfill side quests by just having a lot of resources on you. You talk to a random NPC, and then they're like, oh, hey, you actually have all the things we need. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was easy. I'll just do another one then.
Yep.
And it's just one more after one more after one more after one more. And even the progression of the game, because while the progression of the game, it's not like traditional RPGs where you just kill a bunch of enemies, gain XP, and then your stats go up. Just the fact that even though I would still argue I'm very early in the game. I only did one main dungeon and my map isn't completely filled out yet. Just the fact that I'm progressing as far as I am with how many heart containers I have, stamina wheel with like I have like a full and 3/4 of a stamina wheel. I'm just like sitting here going, wow, I am still so much stronger than I was when I first started playing because I was exploring. I was being careful with the monsters. I was doing every single shrine I could easily get to. And it's just fantastic. I mean, I love this game. What else can I say about it? I mean, one of my best friends texted me the other night, and he was like, so how's Tears of the Kingdom? I'm like, dude, it's 10 out of 10 game of the year. I don't know any other game that could possibly top this.
It's true, everyone. It's really cool because my roommate is also playing it. So like just every day we're just like trading like little tips and secrets and like, oh, this is what I found. Like, oh, where's that? How do you do this? And it's like, actually, there's a great video. I think GameSpot put it out on YouTube, but it's basically them talking about how this is like much like Elden Ring, even though that game is multiplayer. This game really is like the most multiplayer single player game ever made because of the community that's coming around it. And it's not like narrative games where everyone experiences the exact same thing. Like everybody can do every puzzle in a different way, and it's so fun to hear different people's stories. It's just so fulfilling as a video game.
Yeah. Not only that, I also love like you said, this game is like the most multiplayer single player game. I'm on TikTok. I've been bombarded with Tears of the Kingdom videos. I mean, of course, you got the funny ones where like you have people building these giant bomber planes and just wrecking a bunch of bokoblins with Fortune Sub playing in the background. But also they tell you, it's like, hey, if you want to start an armor set, this is where you need to go. Good luck, but this is where you need to go. So and the thing about that is that the game is just so massive, it's just so big, you forget. Like, even though I've seen like 3 different videos on where to get the Ocarina of Time armor, I couldn't tell you where to go. I have no idea where it is. I know I've seen it. I know what's in the game. I don't know where to go.
The great thing about the depths is like, because you have main Hyrule, you have Sky Temples, and you have the depths, which is a dark version of the above world. So like it's just as big, but it's entirely in the dark until you light it up. So like you might know where to go, but you cannot see it until you actually go there. Like it is still like you can have the map right in front of you. Or like I cannot without glow. Like if you can't like without lanterns or whatever, like it is pitch black down there.
Oh yeah,
it's scarier than Elden Ring at times, and this is like a like a PG Zelda game. Like it's Ben. Have you encountered the Gloom Hands yet?
Oh hell yeah, I have.
Dude, the first time Gloom Hands, like, oh my god, like I almost shit my pants. I'm not even joking. It was the music changes, and like you cannot run from them. You cannot fight them at first. It's just like it is like this is your death, and you just got to take it. And like I don't like it.
I found a shrine in a cave, and when I got up to the shrine, the Gloom Hands popped up. And I'm like, this is creepy. So I luckily I had a bunch of bomb flowers, so I blew them up. I'm like, okay, cool, they're dead now. Yay.
Oh, I didn't
Phantom Ganon shows up.
Oh no, I'm glad I ran or died. No, I died. Yeah, I'm glad I died. That's fine. I don't want to fight
you. I threw myself against the wall. I Elden Ringed it. I was like, I'm gonna try and I did beat him. I beat a Phantom Ganon, but now every time I see a bunch of Gloom Hands, I run the F away. Yeah. Even when I went up to try it, I was going up to one of the big mountains, Mount Lanayru, the one with the Spring of Wisdom. Have you been there yet, Ryan? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's Gloom Hands when you're walking up the mountain. Just random Gloom Hands pop up, and I'm like, I don't have anything to fight you, so I just run away. It's terrifying because I don't know if every time you kill the Gloom Hands, Phantom Ganon shows up, and I'm just sitting there going, I cannot wait till I have a way to fight these mother effers and just wreck their shit. Yeah. It is going to feel so satisfying when I do.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, but like I'm like 85 hours in now, and like seeing from where I started and where I am now, like I feel powerful, and like I can still get my ass kicked because like there are always going to be harder enemies, but like I just feel like I have so many cool different armor sets, and like what's cool about like this game, it's like, oh, this is the armor because there's different regions, and like some places are really cold, so like you will lose health if you don't have like proper armor. Same with like a fire region, right? It's too hot, so you have to cool yourself down. So like you have to find that armor, or you have to take you have to drink things. You have to survive. This is like a survival game. Like Breath of the Wild kind of was like it, but this is so much more, especially with like the building components. It's one of the most interesting games ever made because you can ignore all that. You can all the zonai, all the building. You can ignore all that and just play a like traditional video game if you want, and it works that way.
I mean, you can
put as much into it as you want, and it will still be as satisfying.
There was definitely a part where I found a Korok, the one with the backpack, where he was like, "I need to reach my friend," and I just saw where his friend was, and I'm like, "I don't want to build," so I just grabbed him and I walked him.
Oh, I've done that a couple times. Yeah,
it was annoying, but there was another time where I saw these. It was like some planks, a controller. Thank God for that controller. Where you get to like steer your vehicles left and right, and there was also the big wheelies one, and that was like the time where I stuck a Korok onto essentially a makeshift monster truck.
I did that literally today, Ben. Like,
I drove him up the mountain, and the whole time I'm driving, I'm like, I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, this is God, I love video games, man.
Yeah. Well, at this point in the game, like I've because there's a lot of the Zonai dispensers, like where you get a lot of the components to build things in the sky, and I've at this point been to almost all of like the places you can get them. So I have almost everything you need to build whatever you want at times. So like anytime I find one of the little huts in construction zones that has like free wheels and free little like components to build stuff, I'm always like, why not? I have like 40 fans and like 40 wheels that are just sitting in my inventory. Like, why not just use them? I'm like, I'm not going to run out of them because I can literally teleport to one if I need more shit. Like, it's so rewarding. And like in the same way, but in the exact opposite way of Elden Ring, like you can teleport mid-fight. Anytime you don't want to be anywhere, you can just get out of there at any time. And it is so just like freeing of like, hey man, you don't want to deal with that? Don't worry about it. And I'm like, that's really nice. And like it is like the most like vibes, like just so it's so beautiful and just like like I could talk about it forever.
Me too. I mean, you and I are definitely going to be doing a Basement Arcade special later this year, probably after both of us beat the game, just gushing about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
it might be our Game of the Year discussion, but because I'm still very early in the game, I have a few of the Dragon Tears taken care of. I just even love that. Like when you're in the Sky Islands, you look down, you see this giant drawing on the ground. I'm like, oh, sweet. And even if it's in a region I haven't unlocked yet, I just fly to it, get the tier, and I just warp back to where I was. It's just so.
Have you landed
versatile.
on a dragon yet?
You mean the Gleeoks? I've seen them.
No. The giant flying dragon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I had to do a side quest for for the Mother Goddess statue. I had to stake out. Yeah, I had to stake out for the ice dragon, and I had to shoot the claw off. Thankfully, I got it. And of course, the dragon was going into the depths over by Kakariko Village. And when I shot the claw ended up in the freaking gloom. So I'm like, oh, okay. I float down, landed in the gloom, grabbed the claw, and teleported the F out.
Then the game's just like, no problem, bro. We don't mind at all.
Nope. There's no penalty. There's no penalty for doing stuff like that. And even when you do die, there's really no penalty for it. It's just like try again.
Yeah. And the quick save system is pretty good. Anytime I die, like I'm never too far, or like if I lose an encounter, I never feel like, oh, like this is impossible to get back to. It's like it's usually right there.
Yeah. Every time you like go into like a new area, it constantly says save, or it's freaking I love this game.
It's a great video game.
Oh yeah, and that's all I did this week. I just wanted to play Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. That's all I wanted to do.
Breath of the Wild 2.
All right, who else? Who next?
You want to continue on because you've been doing Tears of the Kingdom?
I don't want to talk. I not the Tears of the Kingdom. I don't want to talk anymore though. But I'll
okay, no, I can go. It's not going to be long though.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say.
I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse because of course. Yeah. Would you believe it? It's still an incredible film. Who I have nothing new to say about that. It's
Listen
just
to
an
our
incredible film.
Our review now on YouTube.
I'd probably be a little more thoughtful than I was like fresh in the moment if I got into it, but like it's just a great film. And then I did the customary D and Dark listening for the week. And then I don't know where my free time goes. I know I work on the podcast outside of this, but like I don't have a lot else to report.
You played Knockout City a bunch.
Yes, that's true. I mean, Ben alluded to that earlier, like but that'll come out like Knockout City. Yes, absolutely. Great time. We had a bunch of friends this weekend, and that was a ton of fun. That was a real blast. Just playing video games with friends was nice.
It is
let alone doing some Chaos City before it's over. The only other thing I'll kind of touch on is that I gave notice that I'm quitting my job. That was really cool, and I love it. And I don't do it to like completely like gloat about it or anything because good Lord knows I want Ben to quit his job. But
and Lord knows after the shit that they pulled this week, I am dying to quit.
Ben, like my job has not been as difficult as yours, and like the breath of fresh air I felt when I knew it was ending.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even like I've been on like cloud 9 for a week. After I signed the paperwork where like I for the place I'm going to instead, like I was like, oh my God, I feel free. I feel like the sun is coming out for the first time in so long.
Sparks, I do when I say this is not hyperbole. I literally do this every day at work, but every time I go there and I'm doing my thing, I fantasize about putting in my resignation, or I go to a place where I've been applying, I've been just trying like say I get the dream job, or a air quotes dream job, where a place where I can actually have a career. I always imagine myself saying, like, after they say, yes, we're hiring you on this, like, we're gonna hire you. Here's the paperwork. I sign the paperwork. I get in the car to go home. I imagine myself crying, knowing that I can quit my current job.
Yeah.
I imagine myself giving great clapbacks to certain supervisors at my job on like, oh, why are you doing this? And just essentially giving great one-liners of dropping the mic, of the metaphorical mic, because if they're going to treat me with disrespect, they don't deserve any respect from me. And I am so glad that you were in a place that you were happy, and I hope and pray that sooner rather than later I can say the exact same thing, brother.
My point in saying that, Ben, was like, I can't even imagine how good you're gonna feel when you can do it. And I believe it's around the corner. I really want to believe that, because I feel this good. You're gonna feel incredible. It's so good. It's so good. We all should be able to experience such joy.
I mean, I currently have no job, so we'll see.
Yeah, but you want the joy. It's not about the leaving. It's about telling a job you hate. I'm out. Everybody deserves that satisfaction of telling a job that they hate if they've had to work a job they hate.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm happy for you, really.
I am too. It's gonna be great for everybody.
But most importantly, you.
It already is. It already is.
You're like Goku taking off the training armor.
You're not wrong. It felt exactly like that.
Wow,
like, the weighted clothing. I forgot I could live like this.
Right.
Yes. So all I did besides Zelda was this weekend, because Across the Spider-Verse, just every time a big comic book movie comes out, especially if it's good, it gets me to read comic books, because I love comic books. I love reading comic books. So I read a bunch of Spider-Man, and I'm going to start from all the good stuff and then to the really bad comic that also came out this week. So 1 second, I'm going to have some fun because my mouth is dry. Okie dokie. We're going to start with Spider-Man 2099. I don't have the full creative team, but I know Steve Orlando did that. This was a fun little, a bunch of one-shots and miniseries in a 2099 universe, but I focus on the Spider-Man 2099 one because he's Miguel O'Hara and he's in the movie we just watched. It's funny because that's barely a Spider-Man book. That's really just a stealth 2099 book. Miguel is there, but it's really just every issue. All the covers are introducing Black Widow 2099 and Crossbones 2099. And all that stuff was really fun. And it was a really fun series. I just wanted more Miguel because that's what I thought I was getting. Because I only wanted to read one 2099 book because I wanted to expand all the different books I'm reading. And I didn't choose a bad book. I just chose the wrong, not centric Miguel book. But it's a good time. The X-Men of 2099 show up. They're radical and really weird. There's a guy named Bloodhawk. He's stupid. Next I read was Spider-Punk. Hobie Williams. I thought it was Hobby my entire life. And now I know it's Hobie because it's short for Hobart, which was in the comic I read. So his name's Hobart. That's why I know that. That book is radical, guys. That is awesome. It's an alternate universe where basically everybody is into music in some capacity, whether either you're a musician or not. Everybody uses music in some weird way. It's a cool reveal in the last issue that Ironheart has been part of the team, Riri Williams, but she's not a musician. And to defeat the villain, you guys know Spider-Punk. He has a cool guitar that he uses. He's gonna do his cool amplified wave attack. He's like, I don't have a power source. And she just yells, I'm the mother effing power source. And she plugs the guitar into herself and creates a giant amp. And I'm like, yo, that's metal. It's a really, Ben, you should probably read it because it's pretty metal centric. It's really cool. And it being Spider-Punk, it is very anarchist, F the man, F the system kind of shit. It's really cool. Not as extreme as the movie we watched. I thought it was gonna be he's straight up, just everything he says is yo, this guy's hardcore. It's a little toned down, but it's still really cool and fun. I read a one shot called Spider-Man Devil's Reign, and that's where Ben Reilly is Spider-Man in the modern era, because we read a flashback story this week, but I wanted more Ben Reilly. And this is during the Spider-Man Beyond era, which was only a year and a half ago, where Ben Reilly was the main Spider-Man. He was sponsored by the Beyond Corporation. He was the sponsored government Spider-Man, basically. And this is him during the Devil's Reign arc, where Kingpin is the mayor and he hates superheroes and all that stuff. So in this one shot, he fights Kingpin Jr. His name's the Rose. It's Kingpin's son. He kind of looks like Baron Zemo. He's like a nice, like cool purple outfit, but he wears sunglasses. And it's called the Rose. And he's like, I'm gonna be the next Kingpin of crime, but he really sucks. Like he's a good character, but like he sucks as a bad guy. So Ben Reilly's just like, you're so weak. You're nothing like your dad. So that was a really cool one shot of Ben just getting to be Spider-Man for the 6 months he got to be Spider-Man last year. And then finally, I'm gonna talk about Amazing Spider-Man by Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. That issue came out this week, issue 26, and I was a couple issues behind, so I caught up. And I said before, I quite enjoyed this run up until the last couple issues when I really started to lean heavy into what the inevitability of what the story was going to be. I was enjoying it. I thought it was a really fun story about the villain specifically. I thought his Tombstone and his Vulture stuff was really great. Like Zeb Wells is a great character writer. Like you guys read Hellions, even though that's the only Zeb Wells thing you wrote or read, you get the tone of the kind of guy, like he's great. He's awesome. He blends drama and comedy really well. And I thought this book was really good. Once we started veering into why they're going to kill Kamala Khan, the book becomes like really cosmic and really dumb. And the whole reason issue 1 starts with 6 months later, Peter did something really bad and everyone hates him. His relationship with Mary Jane is destroyed, right? Well, now we know why. This bad guy, he trapped Mary Jane and this guy named Paul in another dimension, and Spider-Man couldn't stop that, right? So Spider-Man steals something from the Fantastic Four to help get them back, right? He couldn't just ask them, as you would as a friend. He has to steal it because it's dramatic, and he has to do it now, so there's no time to talk about it, to save them. But Mary Jane has been gone, not for like 6 hours, like Peter thought. She's been gone for 4 years because it's another dimension. So those 4 years, she fell in love with Paul. She adopted some kids that the villain killed their parents of. So like she has created this family. And in terms of that being a story component, I actually really like, because I love MJ and Peter, but like this arc, this story that Zeb Wells was telling is not about them falling in love, right? Sometimes Peter doesn't need to be with that person. I know that's a big stickler for Spider-Man fans, but like I'm rolling with the flow of this story, right? I'm cool with it. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. The villain itself, he's awful. And the thing about like, oh, I need to sacrifice someone to become a god, all ends up just for Kamala Khan to get killed. And she's not even in issue 25, the oversized 25th issue. She's not in it whatsoever. That's all about Mary Jane and Paul. The next issue is where she dies in issue 26. And it's just like nonsense. And it is a really generic, and like the villain dies and like and Kamala dies. And it's just like, it feels like such like a left turn where I'm like, I just cannot believe this was all Zeb Wells' idea. Because the Spider-Man office is notorious for interfering with their stories for decades at this point. They won't let Peter just be happy, or anybody else for that matter. They'd rather kill people and make him suffer more than to just let him be happy with the kid. It's awful. Issue 26 is really bad, and I was really enjoying this run for the most part. So like, I'm glad I read a bunch of good Spider-Man comics, but man, especially after seeing Across the Spider-Verse, I'm just like, why isn't Miles just the Spider-Man? Why isn't Peter just being a dad? Like I was talking to Sparks, like Clark over at DC. Clark has a kid and he has a wife. Batman, like he has a kid who's been growing up. He started young. Now he's like 17. Like everybody's getting to grow up. Like Aquaman's got kids. He's married. Like why does Peter have to be the stagnant one? Why does he just always have to suffer? And that's why, again, Across the Spider-Verse is incredible, because it's like, yeah, why? Why is this stupid? It's just like, it was such an insane week for being a Spider-Man fan, because I read the polar opposite of what are good and bad about the character. And I'm just like, man, Spider-Man's great. Spider-Man's really great, except for when they use him to fridge women of color.
On that note, having seen like the pages out on Twitter this week, you guys know this. Ben might not, but like I was just struck by, I'm like, how is this exactly framed like the ending of The Flash season 3? Literally with the stab from behind through the chest of the female character, and then no, it's someone else who's visually pretending to be the loved one. And oh, what a noble sacrifice. But the difference is, like in The Flash, like that sacrifice was built up to and a big deal. I don't read every Kamala Khan comic that comes out, but a more astute fan realized that Kamala Khan's shape-shifting powers, that's not a power she's used since her inception. When she was so uncomfortable in her own skin, she became Carol Danvers. Right. So like that is not something she's done since her inception, and that was something she did out of fear of being herself. So the fact that she simply, again,
it makes me bummed out about Zeb Wells because like she's been here since the beginning in small amounts, but like she was only here for her shape-shifting power,
Which
so she
hasn't
can
been
become
used
Mary Jane
since her beginning.
Yeah, and not even for a good reason. It's because again she was self-conscious about herself.
People have also pointed out that she survived a gunshot that was very similarly placed in her body previously.
Yeah, she has again depending on the run. Like
this should not have killed her.
Yeah,
based on her powers.
She has not like superhuman healing ability, but she does have a better than normal healing ability. Yeah. Whether like depends on the writer, like how strong that is. But she definitely this is a stab in the stomach is nothing in these days, right? Like.
We just saw Obi-Wan where people get stabbed in the stomach all the time.
I was gonna say, but literally, I was thinking of like 2 people got stabbed in that show. It's just, it's really unfortunate, and like, I'm just.
Right. But Ryan, though, there's no other shapeshifters in Marvel Comics. They couldn't have used anyone else, right?
No, it's true. She's the only one, the absolute only one. God, it's just. I'm just need that like I'm so
or just come up with a different story beat that's not copying the Flash season 3 finale.
Yeah,
whether that was intentional or not, like
I think it was just.
I'm sure there's like not a purposeful doing of it, but I'm like, boy, this is very similar.
Was the editor Nick Lowe?
Yeah.
Nick Lowe just walks into Zeb Wells' office and just like, hey, I just watched the Flash season 3.
This is the thing. Would it shock me that Nick Lowe was pushing this specific like framing idea because of the Flash season 3? No.
And after reading this, again, the marketing for months now has been this is the most shocking thing to happen to Spider-Man in 50 years. And the 50 years ago was when Gwen Stacy died. So like
I think the most shocking thing to happen to Spider-Man still up to this moment is when Doc Ock took over his body.
Yeah, and that story is awesome.
Nobody predicted that.
Yeah, nobody. Dude, I've been thinking about Spider-Man so much. That is when I jumped onto that book. It's issues like issue 700 is when it's like Doc Ock as Spider-Man, but issue 699, Doc Ock is dying on his deathbed, and Peter walks in, and Doc Ock can barely breathe, and he's like, I am and he's gonna say I am Peter Parker because he did a brain swap, and Doc Ock dies on the table. So people were going into this new comic thinking Peter Parker died, and now Doc Ock is just Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And that wasn't it because Spider-Man actually turned out to be a ghost, and he's like he possessed him sometimes because Marvel wouldn't let that actually happen. Dan Slott wanted to just kill Peter Parker, and that is super bold. But Marvel's like, you cannot do that, but we will let you roll with the idea. And that comic still rules. That's why they bring it back because they're out of ideas.
We've got a lot of Spider-Man news to talk about a little.
Hell yeah! What a week. Yeah, there's a lot of Spider-Man.
But you're right. Like everything about this has been so mishandled, and I do think like there's an amount of a. We shared around like the article of people talking about from the perspective of women of color talking about what this means, and that this is very much I'm gonna find the title and the author in a second when I pass over to Brand just so I can mention it, but this is very much in a community of comics where they constantly feel like they're not welcome.
Yeah,
this is actively saying like, why should I continue to support a place that doesn't want me to be here? It really broke my heart reading it because it's very much like we keep trying and like
you won't let us,
regardless of like best intentions or whatever. When things like this happen, it really shows how much like we in their minds don't mean anything, and from their perspective. And I'm like, I think that's completely true, and I think that's really awful because like Kamala feels like such an afterthought here with no care for her long history, no care for her stories. Nobody cared, as Ryan pointed out, about her previous abilities, what her arc had been up to this point. Her involvement in the story is merely to serve as a purpose of a footnote in what Peter's doing. It's so gross and it's so awful that we're still here in 2023, and I do think it's kind of going to be like this particular one is gonna be looked back on as like this very like very, very shallow, very dark decision in comics history that like you will lose readers over this, and they might not come back ever or for a very long time, and the industry will have to change. I think the next one like this is only going to the next one like this might not even be as bad, but it will get even more backlash because this one happened.
Yeah.
And I think that the kind of the way that they handle death, and especially like the passing of non-white male heroes, in comics is going to get a really stern eye on it from here forward.
The thing that that really gets me is that Nick Lowe on Twitter, the editor, has been on Twitter being like, y'all just wait till you read this comic. You're going to change your minds. This is a great comic. And y'all, it is a totally substandard issue of a comic where a character dies. Like if this were like another side character, like one of just Peter's friends who like got mistaken for MJ, because MJ was supposed to be the sacrifice and then Kamala turns into MJ, right? Like it would be a fine comic. Like, oh no, this character died. But you kill off a really important character for no reason that's barely in your book, who doesn't even have her own ongoing title, who has a movie coming out in a couple months, we know you're going to resurrect most likely as a mutant for synergy. And I've had this conversation before, but it's just like, this is the shit that like really, really bums me out about like corporation synergy sometimes. Cause like sometimes it's good and sometimes it's like, Nick Lowe really thinks this is a great idea. That dude's like pushing hard of like, nah, y'all, wait till you read this comic. And I'm like, bro, I did. It's awful. I don't want to say it's awful. Like I want to support bold ideas, but like this is not the way.
So the article is on AIPT.com. Look at that. With Amazing Spider-Man number 26 proves comics haven't come very far since Alex DeWitt's bridging, and it's written by Leah Williamson. I'm going to send the link to Brandon, and Brandon can add it to the links for this episode later on.
Love it.
So that'll be there for those of you watching the rewind or checking out the audio.
Love it.
Okay, my turn.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. I watched Punisher Warzone.
Yeah, I saw you did that. That's cool.
Yeah, in honor of Ray Stevenson's passing, it was the one where I was like, I wanted to check this one out for a while, and as Sparks mentioned last week, that this was something that like it now shot up on my list now that he's passed. So I checked it out. It's very fun. I really enjoyed it. The action is incredible. It is very much like early though, so there's still like there's still kind of some quick editing to kind of hide some of the choreography in the beginning, but that maybe is a staging thing because the rest of the action throughout is very good, including his action sequence with Zodiac.
Yeah, it's this was an insanely low budget movie.
Yeah,
like probably maybe like in terms of big scale, like one of the lower budget Marvel movies. And this was directed by a Palestinian indie director, Alexi Alexander, who you should follow on Twitter because she gives the best views on politics in Hollywood and being a woman, being a person of color, all that stuff. She doesn't get to make a lot of shit like this. And this is a big Marvel movie directed by a woman of color and that like nobody really talks about. Right. So I've always praised it. I think it's great. I'm so glad you got to watch it.
So, for those of you who don't know, this Punisher Warzone is part of a very short-lived Marvel Studios brand called Marvel Knights. They were going to attempt to do more R-rated fare under Marvel Studios on a banner called Marvel Knights based off the comic. The comic line of the same name. So, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance and Punisher Warzone were under that brand. And both those movies underperformed, so Marvel Studios didn't pursue that idea. Who knows how much of that idea is Kevin Feige's or Ike Perlmutter's? We can't really say.
I want to say, and I could be wrong, but there's also a Blade television show. And I think that might also be, because those were around the same time, that might be Marvel Knights.
Maybe, yeah, that's possible.
It was Spike, I think.
Spike, yeah.
I think, I could be wrong, but yeah, it was like some weird network, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm always kind of fascinated by the Marvel Knights brand because I thought it was a really interesting idea that I kind of was hoping they would resurrect now that they're kind of doing more dark material.
I whether they'll call it Marvel Knights or not, like I do think we are going to go into a more mature direction just because as many characters as we have, like it's only fair to serve that many audiences. There will be some type of Marvel Knights, whether it's a imprint or just a collection of movies like with Werewolf by Night, because that's kind of rated R. I think a resurrection is smart.
Yeah, because I really, it's got its own logo, and then it's like very much like the Phase 1 Marvel Studios logo, and then but as the Marvel Knights, and it's black and white, and it's cool. I really like it.
I just pictured like a new one for Marvel Knights in the MCU era, and it's all like I got like Dark Universe vibes in my head immediately.
Like, from the red to the black. Yeah.
When the thing comes around the black sun.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Dark Universe. Anyway, so Punisher Warzone is really cool. Ray Stevens is awesome. Wayne Knight is Micro.
He's so good.
That's really fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Dominic West is Zodiac, and he's
Jigsaw.
it was Jigsaw. I think Zodiac is from Spirit of Vengeance, a version of Zodiac. It's not actually him. But the Jigsaw is such an unhinged villain. That was so much fun to watch him play because I just saw him like 2 years ago, maybe last year in Downton Abbey.
Oh, sure.
Because he's British, so he's like playing a posh British man. And so like see this guy completely inside was really fun.
Yeah, I love. He gives a speech. Jigsaw. So he was also in the Punisher Netflix show. But I like this one. Not that it's a bad the Netflix one, but like I just like this one because he, like you said, Brent, he's so unhinged. But he gives a speech in front of the American flag to a bunch of villains recruiting them, and like American music's playing in the back, and he's like, "My fellow Americans," and he's got like a effed up face because like his face got like destroyed. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. I recommend. So I also watched Howard, which is the documentary about Howard Sherman, who is one of the creators of who is one of the songwriter for The Little Mermaid. Worked with Alan Menken on Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. Little Shop of Horrors apparently is him. Love it. Didn't know that.
I love that movie.
Also, it always baffles me when it clicks on that Little Shop of Horrors is a remake of a 1950s film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a really interesting look at this guy's life. I did really enjoy it. It's not my kind of documentary though, because it is 2% moving images and then 98% still images. And so what it is, it's like it'll be a picture of Howard or his sister or him as a kid with his dad or something, and then the camera just kind of zooms in on the picture.
That's like a YouTube video essay,
right? While the talking heads are happening in the background, and we never see the talking heads. We only ever hear their voices, and they always have to tell us who they are when they start speaking. Mm. So I'm not crazy about how the documentary was done, but I do think it's an important documentary to watch, especially with Little Mermaid out right now, because this guy lived
Pride Month.
What?
And it being Pride Month.
And it being Pride Month, this was a really prominent man who created some awesome music for Disney's Renaissance era. Arguably, Disney wouldn't have had a Renaissance era without him, because Little Mermaid's the beginning of it. Apparently, he was also going to be hired to do a sequel to Mary Poppins in the 90s, and that didn't happen. But it's fun to think about.
30 years later, she returned.
You know what? That probably was the idea, to get what's her name?
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews back, because she could have played the role back then.
Mm-hmm. Right. Every 30 years she returns.
Umbrella with lightning.
Scary Poppins is one of my favorite YouTube trailer re-edits to make a horror movie. Scary Poppins really.
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Really good.
I also started watching The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, which is on Disney Plus. I have not seen the entire thing before, just kind of a smattering of episodes here and there. And so I decided to sit down and watch it, because for those of you who don't know, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, or the Chronicles of Young Indiana Jones, or whatever it was called, was a hour-long educational drama that had these bookends of older Indiana Jones telling stories about his young life, where he met every famous real life character in the world, which is fun.
Does every episode have bookends?
Every of the original run did, with George Hall, with the exception of the one that Harrison Ford did. Which is so. Anyway, flash forward. Show was canceled. Nobody liked the show. 1996. George Lucas re-edits the show into 22 hour-and-a-half movies. And so that's what's readily available. That's what's on Disney Plus. What he did was he took out the George Hall, every scene with George Hall. So no longer old Indiana Jones with his eye patch and his loving of soap operas. And they refilmed bridges for each story, because it would be composed of 2 episodes. And so there'd be 8-year-old Indy and then 10-year-old Indy, but we're supposed to believe they're the same age, because now this is consecutive and the kid didn't age within the year that they did the 2 episodes. And then it's filmed. So things are filmed with the same kid, who is now 3 years older. So in the movie, you'll see this kid go from an 8-year-old to a 13-year-old to a 10-year-old in one movie, and it's very funny. But it's it's fun. It's kind of feels like Indiana Jones fan fiction because there was one episode where he met Pablo Picasso and Norman Rockwell. One episode, I'm like, this is too many famous people. Indy.
I've seen one episode of the Chronicles of Jones, Indiana Henry, based on the dog, and it's the mustard gas episode because I watched it in history class.
Yeah, that's the not quite so young Indiana Jones episodes. That's when he goes to World War I think.
Yep.
So it's basically young Indiana Jones Wishbone.
Pretty much.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Pretty much. It's really interesting. And like it doesn't really quite feel like Indy as we know him because they're very different. I mean, obviously he's a 10-year-old kid, so like, it's going to be different. But like his dad is, he's kind of like a stern, kind of absent dad, but he's like nice to Indiana. And then his mom, which we never meet the mom in the movies. And so it's really, kind of the biggest value for like an Indiana Jones fan is to meet his mom in the show. She has an affair in the 3rd episode.
Get it.
With a famous opera composer, and she like considers leaving Henry Jones, and you're like, boy, in The Last Crusade, when you were like, hey, your mom hid your illness from me, Indiana should have definitely said, hey, remember when she almost cheated on you?
There's a famous song called Me and Mrs. Jones. I guess it's about Indy's mom.
I guess so. It's wild. It was wild. I was watching this episode. I was like, a 90s kids educational program where the mom is tempted by love to leave her family behind. Wow.
Hey man, if you're unhappy, that's educational. Like, hey, don't be stuck in a loveless relationship. Learn that when you're 7.
Yeah, that's true.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No shame on Mrs. Jones. Like, get it, girl. But like, it's wild to me that that was happening on ABC Family in 1992.
I mean, a little bit of shame. Like, cheating's wrong.
Cheating is wrong.
Cheating's bad.
She could have been polyamorous.
That's an entirely different conversation than what you're talking about.
Henry likes to swing with like the same chicks that his son dates. So like, who knows what he's into?
Hey man, maybe they're into some weird shit.
If Indiana Jones Chronicles clearly establishes, which I highly doubt, that they were in an openly polyamorous relationship, even it was that he wasn't and she was, but he was okay with it. That's very different than she's cheating on him.
Episode 6,
which is like
called Indiana
totally
Jones
different.
and the Discovery of Polyamory.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited to go through it. I've never gone through the whole thing before. And it's fun to do. And I kind of just waiting for the Harrison Ford episode because those are the only bookends that weren't taken out of the re-edit.
That makes sense.
If Indy were 20 today, he would be polyamorous.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And probably bisexual.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%. There's kind of it's reading into it a bit much, but he does seem to have a little gay crush on a slave. There's no way to say that nicely. I was really trying to find a better word, but it was a slave.
Yeah,
maybe I don't want to watch this show.
Check out Grayson's comment: Indiana Jones Swingers Club and the Swingers Club.
I mean, he's got a whip.
He does have a whip.
The first episode, they go to a sultan's place and he owns slaves, and that they have they have multiple long conversations about why slavery is wrong. But hey, we do it, so it's not so bad.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway. All right.
This is the Spider-Verse episode, right?
Yep.
We're talking about Spider-Verse, right?
I had 2 more things. Ted Lasso ended. Just want to say, hey, great run. 3 seasons, wonderful show. Love it. Jason Sudeikis was great in the role. Definitely feels a little weirder than the first 2 seasons because they lost their showrunner who did the Harrison Ford, Jason Segel. Jason Segel. Shrinking show. He developed that, and so Jason Sudeikis.
That's Bill Lawrence, right?
Yeah, Bill Lawrence.
So Scrubs.
Oh, sure. Okay.
All that stuff. He left, and my understanding from everyone who's been watching Ted Lasso is like, boy, do you feel it?
Yes, you 100% do.
Yeah.
But it's still good, and it's still like keeping true to the spirit of Ted Lasso. It just is not structured very well anymore, and there's some pacing issues. It's not as tight, but they wrap up Ted's story in a really good way, but they don't wrap up anyone else's story in a satisfying way. And I really hope that's because of the rumors of the spinoff show that's just with everyone else and not Ted is in fact happening, because that would make a lot of sense. But if not, it just kind of feels a little selfish because we have grown to love these characters, and the Ted Lasso definitely didn't become just his show anymore. It was everyone's. And so it's kind of weird that we don't get closure for everyone else.
Do you want a spin-off show without Bill Lawrence with these characters?
Without Bill Lawrence? Probably. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I just asked because I know I've heard enough people talking about Ted Lasso passively on podcasts, the same way you are right now.
Yeah.
In like it's not the main feature, but so they've talked about the season. And they're like, yeah, I kind of want them to just like be done. I just stop.
I get it. And I'm like, if they do stop, like, that's fine. You know, the title character of the show got a happy ending. I would be okay with it because like I know I'm in the minority, but I did enjoy this season. And I see a road without Ted Lasso, just doing a show called Richmond or someone else's name.
I think the bigger thing is that people have been saying they're not interested without Bill Lawrence.
Yeah, that's true.
Based on the season. Was why I asked that.
I gotta give Shrinking another shot because I watched half of the first episode. I couldn't really get through it. So
people say it's like Harrison Ford's most acting thing in like 20 years.
Yeah,
that he's just like fully committed to a character there in a big way. And I'm like, wow, that's really neat.
I heard that. Sad no one says that about 1923 though, because he's really good in that show.
Well, Brandon, everyone who watches that is like 85 years old and like in the middle.
And me.
It doesn't tweet and doesn't podcast.
Doesn't know what Twitter is.
Finally, I'll just talk about The Little Mermaid. I went to see the new Little Mermaid movie, Halle Bailey. It's pretty good. Like, honestly, like it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. I put it around Beauty and the Beast because I really like Beauty and the Beast.
Sure.
So probably like in the Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin area. Probably in that order, going from bottom to low, bottom to high. But it's pretty good, except for the beginning. The first act really bugged me, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna be okay with this, because I found every scene under the sea, pun intended, intensely boring and uninteresting. And that really sucks because I do think there's some interesting CG happening here and some good acting. Halle Bailey's incredible. But it's just not filmed in an interesting way, and the musical numbers both fall flat. For me anyway. Under the Sea really bugs me because it's just him kind of swimming around with a bunch of sea life. And he's talking about like the bass plays the bass plays the bass, and I'm like, what bass? What bass?
You tweeted about that, and I've been sharing it with my wife and other people, where like I didn't even think about that until you said it, and I'm like, of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't have the fish playing instruments because they're going for realism now.
Yeah. And
it really made it click for me that I'm like, of all the pieces, maybe in these live action things in general this should be the case, but certainly for Under the Sea, it should have turned into a fantasy musical number the exact same way that musical numbers do in musical films.
Sure.
Where it becomes this fantastical envisionment where things that aren't real are happening. It should have done the exact same thing for their context.
Yeah.
So the fish thing gets more cartoony and fantastical because it is a musical number in the same way that musical numbers happen in other musical films.
Yeah.
And when that clicked in my brain, I was like, how are they this stupid? How are they this stupid to have lyrics about fish playing instruments and not figure this out?
Honestly, I would have been okay with you changing the lyrics.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think that part of the point is like Under the Sea is designed to be in its construction a very colorful song. It is the most colorful song of the film. It's vibrant. It is of the, like, you could have all the other musical numbers be straightforward. This one should have been a fantasy.
Yeah. And the other thing that they really ruined with that number that I didn't quite realize until I saw it happen is that Halle Bailey sings along to it at the later end of the song. And I'm like, you just lost the meaning of the song, because the point is that she's not singing because she's not listening to Sebastian, and Sebastian isn't getting through to her. But if she sings, it makes the audience think that Sebastian is getting through to her. So why does she leave?
Mm-hmm.
And I really just thought that was just like, oh, we have Halle Bailey, so we have to have her sing the big Under the Sea number. Like, you didn't.
Yeah, but do you remember the swamp? You remember my song in the swamp?
So Scuttle gets a song called the Scuttlebutt.
Oh Lord!
And it is atrocious. And I here's the thing: I don't actually think that given to a better singer, frankly, it probably could have been really fun. There's really nothing wrong with it outside of Awkwafina sings it.
Yeah,
and that I just don't. It just doesn't work because of that. She's so annoying as a singer. I like Awkwafina. I like her as Scuttle. I think she's a fine choice for Scuttle. It's just that song was not it.
Well, part of the problem is that, like, Awkwafina as Scuttle, and I don't mean Awkwafina, I mean the character of Scuttle and her playing it the way that the reason she's cast to play Scuttle is Scuttle's supposed to be annoying, and Awkwafina can do the annoying that Scuttle can be. Right? Like, Scuttle's always supposed to be annoying. Scuttle tries to do a song at one point in The Little Mermaid. He doesn't, like, fully commit to it because they make him shut up because he's annoying. That's, like, part of the point. So, like, Awkwafina is not always annoying, but, like, part of the point of her doing it is that she's supposed to be annoying. You just don't let her sing a whole song.
Yeah. I think outside of that, everyone's great. I really like what they do with Eric. Honestly, I think that's the most valuable stuff, is giving Eric a lot more agency, a bit of a personality. And like the relationship between Ariel and him and Eric really sings because of that. So when he enters the movie, actually more specifically when Melissa McCarthy enters the movie sings. Like, it's like, pun intended, it's good. And I was really enjoying it. The love story works really well. The chemistry is awesome. I think the musical numbers have more energy when they're on the surface. And I did start to really enjoy it and really get into it. Melissa McCarthy is my absolute favorite thing in the movie. She's incredible as Ursula.
I've heard nothing but good things. Like, that's the only reason, honestly, like, I kind of want to see her and Halle Bailey.
Yeah, she's so good as Ursula. Her number is awesome. Like, she commits, and it's like it's the most colorful. It's the most colorful that the C sections are. She's moving around like an animated character. Her tentacles are not don't stick to a size.
How do the eels look?
Eels look great. They look good.
Look good. Okay.
Yeah, they look like creepy eels. They even do the eye thing when, like, the two of them are looking.
That's what we were worried. They were going to be too realistic, but, like, as long as they look spooky, hell yeah.
Yeah, they look evil, and I like it. Melissa McCarthy honestly looks like she came out of a different movie.
Nice, that's great.
I really liked her, and I was really impressed with the fact that this was her first singing number, and she nails Poor Unfortunate Soul.
Love it.
She's incredible.
Chalk one up for Villings seeing the show from the main characters.
And, like, that's not no shade on Halle Bailey. She's great. She's great as Ariel. Like, quite frankly, she's pitch perfect. The last thing I want to say is it was really incredibly funny when they do the big reveal of Atlantis or whatever the hell they live, and in the Gold Palace in the movie, and it's just 4 stacks of coral.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it behind it? Like, are we there yet? What are we doing here?
I will say that, like, I think Aquaman makes Little Mermaid look a little bit like, come on, y'all. You could have tried.
I was just thinking Aquaman's coming out in 6 months. I'm so excited.
Well, like, Aquaman's colorful. It's vibrant. It has a whole setup underwater.
It has octopus really playing the drums.
It has an octopus playing the drums. Like, I just, like, when Aquaman came out and we knew that they were wanting to do a Little Mermaid live action, I was like, see, this is like, it's very interesting. What can we picture with underwater kind of stuff? And I if you told me that Aquaman was going to be more vibrant and colorful than the Little Mermaid live action film before either came out, I wouldn't have thought that.
It's true.
But here we are.
It's true.
There's one more thing I wanted to say, which is that they really brought the subtext into text. For example, it's revealed that not revealed. Anybody who knows the Little Mermaid, anyone who watched the show, anyone who watched the sequel, anyone who cared about the lore, whatever. It was a stupid thing to say, but they lean into the fact that Ursula and Triton are siblings, that Ursula is Triton's sister, which isn't text in the original film, it's subtext. And then the Ariel now has mermaid powers. She has the powers of the siren, and that's her voice.
I think it's text in the Broadway play.
It's possible. Yeah, I haven't seen the Broadway play.
Yeah, I saw it years ago when I went to New York City, and I do remember Triton saying something about how Ursula was his sister, but he had to banish her. And when Ariel has like her conch or like her thing of power in the Broadway show, Ursula's trying to be like, "Oh, Ariel, my niece," and she's like, "No, you're." He's like, "Oh, come on, you're not going to hurt your aunt or anything like that." And then
maybe this is all not verbatim, but similar dialogue happens in the movie, so it's possible.
Yeah.
They do big Ursula, so like how bad could it be? So yeah, honestly, go see it if you want. I'm just gonna buy back.
Definitely, instead of just skipping it, I'll definitely watch it when it comes to Disney Plus.
There you go.
Me too.
Check it out on Disney Plus.
I'm gonna go see it with my wife at some point. We want to support Halle Bailey.
Hell yeah.
All right, that's my week though. Sorry that took so long.
No.
Shall we go into our bread and butter?
Please.
Yum 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 yum.
Let's get right into it with some sad news. Yukiko Takayama passed away this week. Now, if you don't know who she is, that's okay. She is the only woman ever to write a Godzilla movie. She wrote Terror of Mechagodzilla, which ended the Showa era, the sequel to Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. She wrote that film, and she passed away at the age of 83.
Damn. That's awesome. There should be more women writing cool monster movies.
Yeah. There should be.
I wanted to bring that up because, she wrote a Godzilla movie, which is great. Terror Mechagodzilla is incredible. And I didn't know that there had been no other women who've written Godzilla movies. So,
to be fair, I didn't know there had been women that had been allowed to write a Godzilla movie. So it's cool to know.
There you go, new information. All right, let's move on to the Directors Guild of America.
Nothing but good news here, right, Brandon?
Yeah, sure, whatever. It's for the Directors Guild, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what we know. A tentative deal has been reached between the DGA and the AMPTP, which is the American Motion Picture something people.
Something.
The movie men, the top movie men.
Yeah, it's Netflix and Amazon and MGM and that's the same company now, and Fox. That's Disney. Whatever, those guys.
The same three companies who own everything. Yeah.
Yeah, the same three companies who own everything.
The studios,
the people who fund the things that the people who are striking make. So they have reached a deal with the DGA, which is the Directors Guild of America, that includes gains in wages and benefits, streaming residuals, which is a big one that the Writers Guild are fighting for. AI protections, which is again what these Writers Guild are fighting for, and there is a far longer comprehensive list that I can pull up if you want to kind of dive into it, but I'll kind of leave it there for now. Now this is not ratified. This deal is not so their contract isn't up until the 30th this month, and nothing is set in stone yet. The DGA has to bring it to their members now, and their members have to look at it and then see if they want, and then ratify it. So, good for them, I guess.
Yeah, it's really awesome for those directors. It's just really a bummer that they are just doing this in the middle of the other strike that's happening, and they don't seem to be throwing.
Well, and it's not the DGA's fault that the AMPTP is willing to negotiate on terms that they're not willing to do with the writers. That's not their fault.
There's considerably less amount of directors than there are writers in the world.
Yes.
So
which is one of the reasons and actors. And the Screen Actors Guild one will come up
directors generally, even on your smallest projects, have significantly more stature and importance because making the thing obviously writing is super important, but the director is they are stagehands for everything that they are putting a thing together. So they'll want the directors to be happy, and honestly, most directors are well enough off that I'm sure they can reach a deal that they're totally happy with because a lot of directors do get paid a lot of money already. I'm not saying all of them do, but it's a lot easier to find a deal for a significantly smaller amount of people than the huge amount of writers in the WGA.
No, you're right. That's why they're doing it, and because their contract negotiations, we're going to come up anyway. This is very much heading off. The easiest one to adhere to is the directors because it is the smallest group, and
it's just bad timing.
It's the one that they'll be more invested in. If they can get the directors on their side, then they'll feel like they can win in the long run.
Yeah.
but it'll be interesting to see how the members react to the deal going. Brandon, you were going to say more.
Well, I was going to say that the fact that the studios think they can make the deal here is because the directors are kind of using the writers as leverage a little bit. Like, hey, if you don't make a deal with us, we'll go with them.
Yeah.
And so they feel like, as you guys have been saying, more secure in making a deal with the directors. One of the things so the two biggest things that the writers are fighting for that the directors also looks like they're getting is streaming residuals, which is a big deal right now because streaming pays no residuals, not really.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have set up a system now that could see, and so this contract has in its clause that within 3 years, residuals will go up to a total of $90,000 per director. So that's an extra $90,000 in residuals that the directors will get.
Yeah.
I hate that 3-year thing that they pull. They do this in contracts all the time where they're like, over the course of 3 years, it'll get to the point that you feel it should be.
Yeah.
And then inflation by that point might mean that doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yep.
So what happened with minimum wage when the government raised the minimum wage?
That's what happened in my work.
And then the other one is the AI thing, which basically short and sweet. It says that it cannot replace directors. It will not replace directors. It is not a human being. So basically, they got the protection of the job security of my job will never be taken by AI.
That's fantastic and awesome. Again, it's a lot harder for an AI person to direct an entire project as opposed to them just writing something or just doing music. It is a significantly smaller thing. Like no one's gonna ask, like, "Hey, I'm gonna add this computer to write, edit, produce." Like we've seen how those things turn out. They're totally shitty.
Now there is a silver lining in that this is what AMPTP has admitted to in the deal.
Yeah.
And the phrasing of it does give writers a stand to say, like, you have admitted that it does not factor in for a creative human voice in the room.
Yeah.
Which means that same sentence is true for AI in terms of writers.
Yeah.
Like if you're saying that sentence is true here, you have to acknowledge the sentence is true here as well.
Absolutely.
And so like that is a small silver lining of like where they can leverage some power in future negotiations when they do get to go back to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's frustrating about that, though, Sparks, sorry to interrupt, is that the AMPTP has been saying that we can't go back to the negotiating table with the WGA because we had the DGA negotiations up. And that's not fair because you can negotiate with two unions at one time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, they'll say whatever they can to save face about, like, the fact that they're just being shitty, greedy people.
Yeah.
Like, of course, they'll try and change the narrative on that. But they did kind of, in the haste to get the director's stuff secured so that there wouldn't be another group striking when I think they know, I think Ryan's correct. They're a smaller and easier to appease group than the other two.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to do this for SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
And I do think SAG-AFTRA will strike. And I think they were like, we can't have all three. And so in their rush to do this, I think they kind of set themselves up for a little bit of failure on the AI front because they allowed a sentence of their volition where they admit an AI cannot replace a human being to exist. They're now caught. If that deal goes through, that's legally binding language that they can point to for those other contracts.
Yeah, you guys said it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, here's the direct quote. Groundbreaking agreement confirming that AI is not a person and that generative AI cannot replace the duties performed by members.
Right.
That is a good sign.
That is a, like, they might have been rushing to secure this, and that sentence might come back
to hurt them.
To hurt them when inevitably they have to go back to negotiating.
Yeah.
And that can be an advantage. So that's nice that that's there. And again, like, you know, it's the DGA, if they're getting the things that they're asking for, like, good on them. Now it's up to the members if they're going to decide, like, yes, this is everything we wanted, but we stand with the writers. And if they're going to withhold their approval of the deal just because of that, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good stuff here. Like there's a feature directors, which is going to allow directors to get paid for what's called soft prep, which is basically just before you enter pre-production. You're not getting paid until you enter pre-production, and now you are.
That's nice. That's good.
Good for them. Hope it works out. Okay. That's linked below if anyone wants to check out the full list of terms.
To be determined what will happen next.
Tune in next week.
Spider-Man.
We just talked about Spider-Man. We're
I
talking
got
about Spider-Man later.
I got a whole section of Spider-Man right here.
I'm juiced. I'm primed.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, the Untitled MCU Spider-Man, fourth Spider-Man movie. They have confirmed in a big kind of article that confirmed other things. Avi Arad and Pedro Pascal, Amy Pascal, have talked about that there had been meetings and kind of plans on what they were forming Spider-Man for before the writer's strike, but because of the writer's strike, they've stopped that in solidarity. But Pascal did say an interesting quote, which is, "Whenever they get themselves together, we'll get started."
Yeah, she's funny.
That's something you don't. Oh, that just makes you look like, oh, we'll just wait. I mean, cool. That's
she was like, oh yeah, we're just we're waiting until we're on solidarity. The writers we're not moving forward on this production right now. She was set, and she said that. I was like, girl.
Yeah. No, you could make an argument in better faith, right? That like she's referring more to AMPTP than the writers, but she's not. Because we know Pascal and we know Arad and we know where they'd stand on that fight.
Yeah. It's like they gave it. She had a great softball response, and it was like, okay, yeah, maybe, or like, all right, yeah, let's do this. And then the second she says that, all that goodwill, I think, is like, and it's gone.
They get a little bit of good faith because we're talking about an incredible.
Yeah. Had some good faith. It's like, hey, we're gonna not work on this movie because of the writer's strike. Hey, okay, cool. But once you get yourself sorted out, we'll get back to it. Oh, goodbye, Faith.
We'll drop that one. Tom Holland, I don't know why I said it like that. Tom Holland is now saying he wants to be Spider-Man for as long as he can.
As long as the story's good.
As long as they keep it fresh and entertaining.
As long as everything else he tries to do flops.
Man, that
kid.
That kid cannot catch him. I call him kid. He's like 26 or whatever. He will always be a kid in my heart. He just can't pick roles, apparently. That's a bummer.
Yeah. He needs a new agent.
Yeah.
He does. I mean,
but yeah, so now he's because after Spider-Man No Way Home, he was very much like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this anymore. And now he's like, yeah, I want to keep doing it.
Like 3 flops in a row. Like
you want me to continue to make money playing the most popular hero in the world?
I mean, yeah, like during that interview, he had said, like, listen, like I'm not gonna pretend like this isn't the most blessed life in the world. Like, of course, like I love being Spider-Man. Just like it's exhausting sometimes. Like, time enough away, you start to be, you start to want it again or whatever. Yeah. So like I get it, dude. Like making those movies for like so many years in a row is exhausting.
Probably making.
Well, I think especially what it was is like he was coming off of the train of Far From Home, Infinity War, Endgame, Far From Home, and Endgame. No Way Home. Like all so close.
3
to
Spider-Man
each other.
movies, 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah. In
Captain
such a
America.
small amount of time, I'd want to break too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
He basically single-handedly did the entirety of the Disney Star Wars film run as for his own performances. Like he had just as many movies in just a small amount of time.
Dude was working. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, so hey, once this starts going, I'm happy for it. People, by the way, have been running with someone said that Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland and Zendaya is in the works. Nowhere in the interview do Avi Arad or Amy Pascal mention Zendaya as part of it.
Yeah.
It's just that guy just assumes stuff. So beware of clickbait.
More.
I wouldn't be surprised if she is though.
Oh, I'm sure she is. They didn't say anything. Miles Morales is getting a live action movie. That's one of the nuggets that they threw out in that interview.
Tasty nugget.
I hope it's an MCU one.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is it MCU or is it just Sony?
But it's also probably too soon in the MCU.
Yeah. And then a Spider-Woman, Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman, so Spider-Gwen, is Avi Arad has said it's coming sooner than later, which tells me it's in development. And
that's supposed to be an animated spin-off to Spider-Verse.
That's fine.
Yes.
With me.
I'm in.
Yeah. Anything Spider-Verse connected, of course. I'm all for a live action Miles Morales. The only reason I say I want it to be MCU is because like I want an MCU Miles, and if you do non-MCU Miles, we're not going to get MCU Miles.
True.
That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Miles stuck in the Venomverse. Fight Morbius, please.
They did it. He's the Spider-Man from the Venomverse. You just
I don't want him fighting Jared Leto.
Although seeing him punch Jared Leto in the face would be satisfying.
Yeah, Adrian Toomes
I'll
comes.
watch Jared Leto for the rest of the movie.
Just close your eyes.
Adrian Toomes walks up, is like, "You're not my Spider-Man." And gets socked in the face. Yeah.
Want to get nuts?
All right. Well, as Ryan mentioned up top about Spider-Man, hey, Superior Spider-Man is coming back.
Book that.
Dan Slott will return to write Superior Spider-Man. That's all we know. There is no news. They've said it is swinging in soon, though.
So there's
Question.
I thought you were about to speak.
Question.
No, please.
Yeah, what's
Question
up?
first.
Yeah.
This is when Doc Ock is in Peter's body, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just
So-
double checking.
So this people obviously massive speculation. A lot of people think, okay, like, hey, Spider-Man's not in a great spot. Let's go back to a time when Spider-Man was super hot and Superior Spider-Man is an awesome time. There's some really good, fun speculation because Dan Slott is writing other Spider-Man stuff right now that I'm not reading. I'm not going to, frankly. But he introduced a character. I don't remember. I think it's either like Spider-Boy or Spider-Bite. There's a new Spider-Man character that's like a young teen character, right? And people are speculating that that something happens in that book where that kid is wants to prove himself to Spider-Man. So maybe this new Spider kid will be the Superior Spider-Man to try to I'm going to be the next Spider-Man kind of thing. Because frankly, that's much more interesting than just, hey, let's go back 10 years because everything we love is nostalgic, right? And that is a great run, but I don't need any more a Doc Ock as Peter story. I have that run. That run lasted not long enough, but it was perfect because it lasted just long enough.
I will say my assumption was that this was going to be someone taking the moniker and look of Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This has happened with Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, who we're talking about, where other people have been Scarlet Spider and it wasn't Ben Reilly.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I assumed this would be. But because it's Slott, I'm like, I guess it could go either way.
Yeah.
And because it's Slott, I'm also uninterested.
And again,
unfortunately,
if he hasn't been writing his own current, just his own Spider-Man in the universe, here's my Spider-Man book. A lot of people are getting that these days. I would assume it's Doc Ock, but because there's a run that's happening now, I don't know what's happening in it, but signs point to it will be like a moniker thing, which is that's fine, that's cool.
Yeah, the end of the Spider-Verse, I think, is that run.
It leads into that. Yeah.
We'll see. Probably we'll get more news about it this week. So
yeah.
Spider-Man Octopus Girl.
Oh.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I didn't know you put this in the news.
I think this is cool.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
In a funny way. So a manga spinoff of Across the Spider-Verse. So this is set in the Spider-Verse story and will be published in Japan on June 20th through the Shonen Jump Plus app. This is going to be written by and art done by Hideyuki Furuhashi and Betancourt. They are the team behind the My Hero Academia spinoff, My Hero Academia Vigilante.
Yes.
This is going to be about Doc Ock falling into a coma and then waking up as a Japanese schoolgirl named Okutamiya.
It's Superior Spider-Man, but I turn into a Japanese anime.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Isekai is an incredibly popular genre.
No, I get it.
And so,
I was just about to say that they just turned Doc Ock into an isekai.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to bend some straws here, Ben, Doc Ock pulled an isekai in Superior Spider-Man. That's what happened.
They've normalized it.
But this is a very popular genre in Japan. The reason I'm I don't know how good it'll be or anything. The Vigilante spinoff has been received very well, so I assume it'll probably be pretty quality. Isekai is super fun.
Yeah.
We've all read one for this podcast, at least one, which is the what if I was reincarnated as Yamcha.
Yeah.
So that can be a lot of fun kind of storytelling. I think the thing that makes me happy about it is that they're doing this. And it's not Akira Yoshida doing it. It's that they're, giving it to a Japanese author to actually go ahead and make it. It's, Spider-Man is popular around the world as a character. So this makes total sense. Having them take full authorship of it, that makes me okay, that's fine. That could be cool.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Spider-Man's also hugely popular in Japan. Remember that 70s TV show that they made?
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Ben,
exactly.
yes, absolutely. Spider-Man is the most popular hero around the world, and it's not close, Ben. So, like, of course, yes, there's Japanese stuff, there's India stuff. Spider-Man's big everywhere.
But I just have one question: is Doc Ock gonna get hit by a truck? So when he wakes up in the body of the girl.
Well, no, he's
They
fighting
said he goes in a
Spider-Man.
coma.
He's fighting
He's
Spider-Man.
he's gonna slip into a coma and then wake up as a Japanese schoolgirl.
I think it's funny. I kind of want to read
That
it.
is fun. No, it is funny.
I'm all for it. I'm all for the weird isekai genre.
The reason why I asked it because in like a lot of isekais, you get hit by a truck and then they wake up.
Yes, no, I know. I'm just saying, like they said in the description, he slips into a coma. So he's just gonna go in a coma, I assume.
I think he's fighting Spider-Man, and Spider-Man knocks him into the coma.
No, that works.
Fair enough.
With a truck. I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? Maybe.
Have you seen the very fantastic anime Reincarnated as a Slime, Ben?
Not yet.
Okay, so the dude isekais into that world in the first episode because literally just a man is running full force, full tilt with a knife, a big like hunting knife pointed straight forward down the street. He's just for no clear purpose, just running straight, and he gets this guy. That's just who he gets. He wasn't aiming for him. He's not going with any intent. He just like, how's this guy gonna get got? Just a man running down the street with a hunting knife.
That's a
just full blown
unfortunate soul.
That's funny.
Wow.
I love isekais. They can be very, very silly.
Oh yeah.
Some Disney news now. Moana. The live-action Moana movie has found Thomas Kail. He's going to be the director of the film. He is the director of the Hamilton stage show.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
He did TV show episodes, so this will be his first feature. So
cool, right on. That's a big upgrade. Love it.
Yeah, there's the Lin-Manuel Miranda connection there because he wrote the music for Moana, so makes sense.
Yeah.
And Dwayne is like, get me that guy.
It's really like a wild card. Like, I don't know, it could go either way. This could be a really bad directing choice, or this could be great.
Yeah,
because like Hamilton's a stage show. There's not a lot we can judge based off that. Like, there's some amount of like needing to know how to construct the shots and everything, but like Lin-Manuel Miranda already, composed something that visually looks good. You're just deciding what the camera's showing.
Also, this is a big, since it's live action, a big, huge, expensive blockbuster.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
lots of CGI.
If the Disney live action remakes have shown us anything, it's like the director can mean something or can mean nothing at all.
Yeah. This is a wait and see for that trailer kind of thing.
Is the woman who directed The Producers the only other stage director to film director in the modern era?
Well, I don't know enough to say
that.
That
Julie Taymor, who directed The Lion King, directed Across the Universe, the Beatles movie.
Yeah, The Producers too.
Yeah.
Oh, she did The Producers.
It's Julie.
I had no idea. That's fantastic.
That's why I was pointing at you. Yeah, it's Julie Taymor. I think she's the most prominent for sure.
I'm sure there's others for like small indie movies and stuff.
I love The Producers, by the way. I love that movie.
Yeah, we like it.
I think this is probably a lot more common in Britain, to be honest with you.
Possibly. Anyway, that was a stupid topic to get onto. Anyway, we can wait and see. Hamilton's a good show. Who knows?
Yep.
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur has cast Edward James Olmos as Molecule Man in the second season.
Love it. Just glad that there's a second season coming. That's all. Love it, baby.
Very different design for Molecule Man, which is very cool.
Yeah. Some layoffs happened over at Disney. I thought we should mention.
Specifically at Pixar?
Just specifically at Pixar, correct, Sparks. 75 people have been laid off from Pixar, including Angus MacLean and Galen Sussman. For those of you who don't know, Galen Sussman is the historic story of they are the person who saved Toy Story 2. It was on their server off site when they deleted the whole movie at Pixar, and they saved that movie.
That's crazy.
The exact reason for these layoffs is not clear, but there's been speculation in the industry that it is because of Lightyear's underperformance and bad critical reception. It's possible, I guess.
Specifically, MacLean and Sussman are both from Toy Story 2. MacLean was working as one of the lead animators for Buzz, and then as the director for Lightyear.
Right.
But so maybe. But the fact that like these historical Pixar figures were laid off
Did they announce it on the Toy Story movie too?
is really
Yes.
is really insane to me. And I think I'm most bothered by this because like there is a lot of industry talk, regardless of if it's about Lightyear or not. It's just in general a disappointment with Pixar's latest performance. And I'm like, well, what did you expect? You put 4 of their movies on Disney Plus without charging anything for them and didn't give them a theatrical release. And I feel like Disney is just like super like shoved them down into a position that's so hard for them to get out from.
Yeah.
And then Lightyear being the first one that got to go back to theaters and it underperformed their expectations. I'm like, this was also still when people were still tepid about, like, you canceled Turning Red going to theaters just a few months before because of COVID coming back around. Like, you're hanging this all on Lightyear. I'm not saying Lightyear would have done stellar, but like if Pixar was still a name on their lips, if Turning Red had come out a few months before, would Lightyear have done better? Probably.
Maybe, yeah. I'll be honest, also, like, of all those movies went to Disney Plus, I think they're all better than Lightyear.
Oh yeah.
No, I think so too. The problem is that like it was such a choice decision. We've talked about this before where like we don't understand what they were doing. Why was Disney Plus doing this to Pixar and putting them in this position? Because it wasn't just that their products were going to Disney Plus only. It's that they were the only ones who, when they were doing it, weren't getting the charge fee on top of it.
The Marvel
Mulan
charge,
did,
yeah.
Jungle Cruise did, Turning Red didn't.
Black Widow.
Yeah.
Mulan.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. It never made sense. And so like Disney coming around and being like, Pixar, you're underperforming. We're going to fire 75 people is a little like, what are you doing?
It's the Eric Andre meme of he shoots Pixar and like, Pixar,
Yes.
why are you underperforming?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Like Disney set them up for failure. Who knows why? It doesn't make sense. We know Pixar has been unhappy about this. It's so frustrating.
Word.
I'm so frustrated for these people who have like done so much for this company and thus transitionally for Disney as a whole.
I'm curious about Elemental too, because I personally think it looks totally fine.
Right.
So I'm curious how well that movie's gonna do.
Honestly, to be perfectly honest with y'all, Elemental is the first Pixar movie in a very long time that I am not chomping at the bit to go see in theaters.
I'm hoping those reviews will change my mind, but like right now, I'm just like,
I hope so too. But I'm watching I see the trailers. I'm like, I mean, it's Pixar. I know it's gonna be good. But
Elemental was shown at the place Indiana Jones was shown at.
D23.
El Capitan.
Cons.
France. So the and so Elemental and Indiana Jones, and there was a post afterwards because they were both terribly received at cons.
No.
And someone was like, "Boy, Disney really misread cons."
Yeah.
Well, it's also like, yeah, it's true. Who knows? We'll see. Also, you can't tell me that Disney doesn't give it like clearly gives no shits about Elemental because they're putting it up against The Flash.
Yeah, they are.
Like, why would you do that? There are open weeks that have less competition. There's one right before Indiana Jones. Now, granted, Indiana Jones is also their movie, but what are you doing? Why are you competing with The Flash?
Maybe it's a Pixar thing where we're just gonna drop it.
But I wonder, like Sparks, I don't get why Pixar has been.
I'm just saying, like, they're not giving Pixar any advantages.
No,
they're putting them in the lowest possible option for success all the time right now.
It's rude. When like it is like Pixar is like was their bread and butter for a long time. Of like the best stuff was coming from Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they're jealous because all the best stuff came from Pixar, and they're like, "Haha! But now we win."
Yeah. You're so right, Grayson. It does hurt so much when you work so hard for a company and they show no loyalty. You can be. This is an important lesson for everyone. You can be at a corporation for 30 years. Don't trust them.
It's true.
They won't have your back.
It's true.
Nope. I honestly, quick tangent. I've actually had conversations with people in management, the decent ones at my work, and I straight up told them I don't trust a single person in management. First thing they say when I tell them that, good, don't. Everyone lies. Everybody lies.
Secret invasion.
Okay. Comics news for Disney, Star Wars specifically. So as we know, the Dark Droids kind of epic crossover is happening in Star Wars soon.
Yes.
A new miniseries has been announced from Mark Guggenheim and Salva Espin and David Messina. Mark Guggenheim, we know him. Cool guy. Happy for him. Got to get those jobs during the writer's strike because comic book writers are on a strike.
That's true.
So he's writing a new miniseries called Star Wars Dark Droids D Squad. For those of you who may not remember the Clone Wars episode, the D Squad, that is a squad of droids that was created by R2D2, and did like a mission in Clone Wars. So R2D2 is returning, bringing back the D Squad, but a different one. With the exception of WAC 47, who is a pit droid that was part of the original D Squad. So R2D2 takes IG-88 Forlom, BT-1, the homicidal Dr. Aphra astromech, and 000, the homicidal Dr. Aphra
protocol droid.
The
protocol droid,
Red eyes.
and Chopper.
Oh, you got me on this one.
I would say the best for last because Chopper has joined the D Squad. Chopper and R2D2 in one comic. Hello.
Forlom's a cool droid. He's a cool black droid. He's got two pew 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 pews. That's a cool team. That's a cool droid team.
Yeah. So this will be there's what's called the I have it here. It's the Scourge, which is happening throughout the galaxy that's turning droids bad. So R2D2 is going to be like, hey, I'm a droid that's still good. I'm going to take other droids that are good, and we're going to go fight this. And it's described as like an adventure romp.
So the Guardians of the Droidicsy.
Yeah. I'm actually really interested in this one.
Yeah, I'm excited for this event. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah. Fast and Furious news.
Meow.
Dwayne Johnson is returning to the role of Hobbs for a new spin-off film. We knew that.
Get your Thunderwear on.
Get your Thunderwear on. We didn't know this. We didn't know the new spin-off film. That's new information told to us from Dwayne Johnson himself.
Hey.
This is not considered a sequel to Hobbs and Shaw. However, Chris Morgan, who wrote Fast 3 through 8 and Hobbs and Shaw, is writing this.
Okay, that makes me excited. Okay.
And he also wrote Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Just thought I'd throw that in there. That's like the one non-Fast and Furious film he wrote.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen.
And they're calling it Fast X.5.
Shut your mouth.
Well, no, that's not what they're calling it, but like that's what they're internally like. Okay, this is not Fast 11. This is not a spin-off film. Technically, we're going from Fast X, where we left at Fast X. We're doing an in-between movie, and then we're going to Fast 11.
It's the Marvel movie before like Endgame or Infinity War. Got it.
I was now my God, Fast and Furious is going so off the rails that they're using the Kingdom Hearts naming
I was about
convention.
to say a 10.2 point. Yeah.
I mean, would you really put it past them with the titles?
No.
The thing is, like, what shook me about this, and I guess I hadn't really thought about it, but I thought initially when they were making the Fast X films that they were making them back to back, which I realized at some point stopped being the case, I think because of the director changing.
Yes.
But even with that being the case, I still figured we were going to start work on part 2 pretty quickly. This makes it sound like we're probably actually a little ways further from that. And I find that really interesting in general right now because, you know, there's 3 part 1s hitting this year in a big way. And we're talking about one of them today. We're talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning later. Both of those were done back to back. We are getting the part 2s of those next year.
Yep.
That's a fact. Fast X, well, they now have to write and develop and film a Hobbs film, which they can't do right now. So it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I also assumed at least the first 2 were done. And then like, oh, the second one was so big, we had to cut it off to make a third one. But like, no, like once Justin Lin left, like, no, we have to start over on that next one.
Yeah.
Which again, it makes sense. Like, again, the Louis Leterrier, the director of Fast 10, like he came in 2 weeks before production. Like that is an insane feat.
For
sure.
That
movie came out as well as it did in terms of like production for one person. So like you need a director on a big movie like that to have as much pre-production as possible. So like if you need to squeeze another movie in to give them time, sure. Also, like Spark said, there was a writer's strike, so this isn't going to come out for a while.
Yeah.
Well, it's possible he already wrote the script, so they're working with a
that's
draft.
True. Could have been just sitting, waiting in case Dwayne never came back.
So
I find that unlikely only because like the odds that wouldn't have gotten leaked earlier about like a Dwayne Johnson project or something like that. Like enough people would have had to known that was in the pipeline that I feel like we would have heard about Dwayne Johnson probably coming back, even if we didn't hear about like specifically a spinoff film for him.
Because they said they squashed the beef last summer.
Right.
So it's been a year now that they've been this has been in the works. So I would not put it past them that Chris Morgan has already written that script in this time. But
That's true.
the Fast X Part 2 is written by a completely different team that wrote Fast X Part 1.
Well, that makes sense because Justin Lin was the main writer for Fast X Part 1, and he's not going to be around anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's Christina Hodgson who did Birds of Prey and Bumblebee.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm still, I like Fast X enough to be excited for the next one.
I like Bumblebee and Birds of Prey. So
yeah. So like that, that's interesting.
I only want Hobbs and Shaw to be I only want the new Hobbs movie to be a sequel in the terms of I want them to continue to pursue whatever they were teasing up.
There's a digital
there's a whole other bad guy out there,
whether it's Keanu or Tom Cruise. Ooh.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. It's really interesting. If it's happening.
Yeah. I would rather see those things all mixed together for the finale.
They have
of, the Fast X franchise.
It only makes sense for the franchise, for the family.
I just looked up the release date for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2, by the way, because I didn't know it was actually next year. I completely forgot that we were not waiting because I remembered Fast X Part 2 is like 2025 or something, and I forgot that we're getting the next Mission Impossible next year.
Yeah. That's because McQuarrie and Cruise debt committed to we're just doing it all in one big go.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why they were a prominent production that was pushing forward with the COVID stuff is because they really couldn't delay because they had so much to do. So the moment that they could put the safety stuff up, that's why they did it. That's why Tom Cruise had his whole freak out. He's like, we have so much on the line. You have to take this stuff seriously.
They were filming that movie for 3 years.
Right. Because they were filming 2 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Lord of the Rings style, baby.
But I think we all feel more comfortable with the anticipation and wait from this film that we're going to talk about in a bit, because we know the next one's next year. We're not waiting another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. They're just polishing that bad boy right now.
So it is kind of surprising to me. I get the director changing, but just that Fast X, who knows how far away that really is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to figure out what happens to Dom after the.
Oh gosh, I hope Dwayne stays committed and if the Hobbs movie flops, he doesn't just decide to throw a hissy fit and say, "Now I'm done with the Fast franchise too."
No, I think because I think he's got nothing left to offer. So
he's got Red Notice, the most popular Netflix movie of all time. Ryan,
Hobbs is a great character for him.
It is,
and if he can just be down to play, then that's great. I think people will turn out for it.
I miss him busting out of cast. I'm happy he's back.
I don't buy the rumors that Vin and Jason are beefing.
I don't know. I don't care. I get you. I'm if they are, whatever.
Mostly because I'd hate this. Just the next movie, he's not in it. It's a different villain. They just a new villain.
They got the Hobbs, but they have to get rid of the Shaw. It's just slow.
You might lose people if Momoa is not in in the next one. If Vin just found
I thought you meant Statham.
If Vin found a way to be petty and take Momoa out, I'm
hell no.
So the whole rumor thing is that Vin's mad because he feels like he's stealing his thunder with being the favorite thing from Fast X, and I'm dude, just be happy you have a villain that everybody loves.
Be happy this isn't people don't hate the movie.
People were on the line of being tired with the franchise, and he gave it the shot in the arm it needed. Just be happy that happened.
It's true.
If that is true, which who knows.
Thread, an Insidious tale, is apparently a movie that is coming. This is going to be a spin-off of Insidious, starring Kumail Nanjiani and Mandy Moore.
Oh.
This is going to be directed by Jeremy Slater, who developed Moon Knight and the Umbrella Academy. He's a writer for them. This will be his first directing job, his feature debut, and his first directing job.
Cool. Interesting.
Cool. This movie will be about a husband and wife who enlist the help of a spell to travel back in time, such that they can prevent the death of their young daughter. The consequences, of course, prove to be severe.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
If
I could go back and change
That's
everything.
really cool. I don't know why this has to be Insidious related.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was weird.
Bagul is sinister.
Sorry, I don't remember. I just like saying Bagul.
Remind me, isn't Insidious about the Antichrist, or is that something completely different?
That's not
Insidious. What are you thinking of? The Antichrist?
No. I think it's
their movie called The Antichrist.
It's a movie with Damien where he had
The Omen?
The Omen?
That's it. That's what I don't know why.
National Treasure?
I don't know.
Yeah, The Omen's good. The original. Oh, the remake's okay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's fine.
How to Train Your Dragon live action film has cast its Hiccup and Astrid.
Ooh.
Mason Thames from The Black Phone. He's a little boy. He gets kidnapped in the beginning. Will be the whole movie. He'll be Hiccup, and Mike and Nico Parker from Dumbo and most recently The Last of Us will be Astrid.
So I still honestly don't really care for this movie, but I think this is really good casting.
This is really good casting.
The Black Phone, that's the only movie I've seen of this kid, but that kid's really, really good, and he's really he's got the emotions. Like that dude's crying. Like he's a really good actor.
Take your guys' word for it.
Yeah. Oh man, we should watch it. That's really good, dude. But Nico Parker also incredible talent.
100%.
Tandaway Newton, genes descended. She's awesome. So this is
it's really good casting. I just wish that they weren't doing it.
Yeah. At least the acting will be good. At least that's nice.
Yeah.
It's a +1. Maybe that trailer will be different enough, but until now.
Did you guys see the little behind the scenes snippet of Halle Bailey on top of people walking,
Yes.
just kind of shuffling? Those are sea turtles in the movie, and it is that boring.
Mm.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad.
So they don't spice it up. It is that boring.
I just guys just they're on their knees just shuffling. I'm like, oh, the wonders of technology.
So anyway, that's what I hope this isn't.
Yeah.
That we get something interesting.
I at this point, I'm very much outside of the bare bones of who Hiccup is, why he connects with Toothless and all that. I'm very much at the way you win me over is if this is fundamentally a different story.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in watching the same thing again in live action.
I agree.
I'm just not. You will never, ever be as good as the original animated film. You just won't.
And we are now, I would say the dragon genre of movies. It's not something we get all the time, but I feel House of the Dragon's back. There's all the dragon things around. I don't feel like I need this to satisfy my dragon urge. I need something new, dinosaur related. You know what I mean? I feel like I get more dragon shit than I get dinosaur stuff. Unfortunately.
What are you talking about? We just had 65.
Oh my god! You know what?
I
only need dragons, maybe.
And we just had House of the Dragon.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Rings of Power. I know I'm naming
all
the dragon related things.
You're right about
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dragons.
Yeah, Dungeons and
Dragons.
Dragons.
The title. Look at that. Dragons winning 2020.
Yeah, dinosaurs not so much.
I mean,
Prehistoric Planet
at the top of the Meg. Does the Meg count as a dinosaur?
Yeah.
Yes.
If we count the Meg and Prehistoric Planet, not a bad year for dinosaurs.
There you go.
mean, this also might be a stretch, but the Lord of the Rings magic set is about to drop, so I'm pretty sure Smaug is one of the dragons you can get.
Doesn't count.
Damn it.
Yo,
we're talking movies and television, but full respect to the magic Lord of the Rings side. It looks cool.
It does.
Yeah. I love that Aragorn.
Yeah, dude.
I love a lot of
all
the
the
art
elves
for it.
black.
I'm just I can't afford this.
True.
It makes me so mad that I want to spend money on this.
And there's a Doctor Who one coming around the corner too.
I saw that one.
Boy.
I still go to Amazon and look at the Warhammer ones.
I have my Godzilla ones right here. Remember?
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop. I won't say it.
All right, trailers.
Oh man, we're here.
Talk.
Silent Hill Ascension.
So I first saw this on my phone on Twitter. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then I rewatched it with Sparks, and I noticed that it's being co-developed by Behavior, and those are the makers of Dead by Daylight. Fantastic multiplayer game. They're not known for story, even though Dead by Daylight has lore and stuff. But this is a Telltale-esque horror adventure, point and click.
It's gonna be a
thing.
series,
and it's gonna be a series, episodic or whatever it is. So that's really cool. The visually, it looks really nice. They got all the monsters you'd want. The thing about Silent Hill is every game it's about a specific character and the traumas and the shit they go through. So monsters are specific to characters. And over the years, Silent Hill has just become a rogues gallery of, hey, look at all the cool monsters we have. So hopefully this can zone in on that more, because this is just totally story based.
Yeah.
But Pyramid Head shows up, of course you have to. He's tied to one character, but then he just became the guy who shows up in everything because he's cool looking, and that kind of sucks.
Just from this trailer, just watching it, this is no slight, and it's a little bit of a snake eating its own tail, and I realize that as I'm saying it. It gave me a lot of Evil Within vibes visually from it. Now, Evil Within is also pulling inspirations from Silent Hill, so that's what I mean by it's a snake eating its own tail. Of course it should, but that was a lot of the visual vibe I was getting, but it's hard to say, and who knows what this game will be exactly. I'm hoping for the best though.
I mean, it does definitely hey, it looks like Silent Hill. You know, you have the town that goes into the dark world. You have all the monsters. You have like sadness. So like it looks like Silent Hill. Like you're ticking the boxes, but like again, will it be good? Like behavior, it makes multiplayer games. They don't make like story-driven games that have no multiplayer. So like it's gonna be an interesting experiment that I hope is good because like I want more Silent Hill.
Yeah.
If it looks like Silent Hill and talks like Silent Hill, is it Silent Hill? Yes.
It's like choose your own adventure. Like your choices decide where the story goes.
Yeah, like a Telltale, like we Walking Dead, Guardians, Wolf Among Us.
Justified City Primeval.
Oh, this is just nice to have because it's just something never thought that would come out.
I used to be a huge Justified fan. I don't know why, but I fell off halfway through season 3. I don't know if it's because I was in college or because I just missed a week and I didn't. I don't know what it was, but I like those first 2 seasons of Justified. It was just great, like going on to FX and watch. I had Sons of Anarchy and I had Justified. I absolutely adored when Sons wasn't on, Justified was on, and vice versa. It was great, and the fact that Raylan Givens is back. Timothy Olyphant is back as Raylan Givens. I'm like, man, you were born to play this role.
I didn't know you watched it.
I will admit, Ben, I'm a little sad that you didn't get all the way through Justified before this happened because there was genuine tension in the last season of like, are they going to kill Raylan? Like you really go into the last episode thinking this might be it for Raylan, and they really build up the whole season to like. There's 2 guys, there's Raylan and another guy, and like eventually they're gonna have a shootout and one of them is gonna die. And like, is it gonna be Raylan? It might be. And they did a good job with that. So but even with saying that, there's not a bad season of Justified. It's worth going back to if you ever want to. The show stayed strong throughout. It's gonna be interesting to watch a Justified without Walton Goggins now.
Yeah.
Which is I'll admit is like a big chunk of the reason I like the show. Timothy Olyphant is another. But like the 2 of them together,
dude, he's like electrifying on that show.
I remember specifically, I think it was for season 3, Ben, maybe season 4, that they released a promo, and it was of like Raylan having like a shootout behind some trees, and then he's like looking over and he's looking over and he's looking over, and then he comes around the tree to like go attack the guys, but so does Walton Goggins' character Boyd, and so it's both of them running forward, and I was like, this is Goku and Vegeta in Country. This is
100% the parallel.
You know what? I remember seeing that promo, and I'm like, what? Because obviously, like season 1 and 2, they're like. Season 1, Walton Goggins is the main villain of the season, and then season 2 is that we have a different villain. It's the lady who played the mom in Dewey Cox. Walk Hard. Dewey Cox
plays Raylan's dad from Walk Hard.
That's why that movie is extra special.
I mean, I loved that season of Justified season 2, especially like the ending when she poisons her own glass. I'm just like, oh.
Good. Ben, now that I know that you've even watched one Justified, maybe we do a review special just because like I really want to watch it.
I need to
think about it.
Justified is a ton of fun. I'm really excited about this. We got Boyd Holbrook coming to be the enemy to Raylan for this one.
He's great.
It is cool to see Raylan in the city environment. We've gotten glimpses of it before in the old show, but we were mostly staying out in the country.
Yeah. He's a country boy.
So seeing it in the city.
In Detroit.
Well, because that was the whole thing. Is like Raylan had left that life. Like he was going home. Is like what's happening in Justified, and he'd been in Miami and he'd been doing all city stuff a while, and now he was getting pulled back to home to the country, and so now we're seeing him go back to the environment he prefers. But so other fun fact, Ben, is the girl playing his daughter. That's Timothy Olyphant's real life daughter. Oh. It's her first gig. So that'll be interesting to see. But like everything looks promising here. I really like the look of it. I really like the cast. I'm happy to go back to the character. Yeah. Timothy Olyphant's incredible and magnetic as Raylan.
Yeah, I just really like Timothy Olyphant as an actor. Like, I don't see everything he's in, but like he's always like one of my favorite things in anything that he is in.
Yeah, like when you see Timothy Olyphant, you go, oh hey, that guy. But now, thankfully, I think a star has risen a bit more, so it's like, oh hell yeah, Timothy Olyphant's in this.
Ma'am, absolutely.
And the man can rock a cowboy hat. God damn,
it's true.
Yeah, Justified's real good.
Hidden Strike.
I know this movie's probably going to be just kind of okay.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll be kind of fun.
Yeah.
I like Jackie Chan, John Cena together. I think that's just kind of a cool combo. I think there's some good beats here that I think in a better cut trailer probably would have played better.
Yeah.
we don't get a lot of what their dynamic is together, and I'm very curious to see it. This reminds me of like when we saw the clip of Arnold and Jackie Chan fighting in that other movie, where that was like their only scene. But we know this is a whole movie featuring them.
Yeah.
So like I'm sure there's probably some good stuff going on. It's also interesting because this movie was made a while ago.
Yeah,
and it's
this
just now
movie was
being released.
shot-
So like John Cena was still in his wrestling career pretty deep when
Yeah,
this
guys,
was
this
shot.
movie was shot 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I have
big
no
as
faith
hell.
in this movie whatsoever.
Yeah.
It has some funny stuff, but like the first line, I don't even remember, but like I think it's a seatbelt line. I'm like, oh, this is the caliber of joke we're going for.
Yeah.
And I immediately knew this movie. Like, it's cool having these two people together. Like, I'm sure they will have fun banter, but it's absolutely like, this looks like the movie from the director of the Expendables 4 movie I don't even know existed.
Yes.
Yeah,
sir.
what a wild way to find out Expendables 4 was coming out this year.
Yeah, and like I forgot what the other movie this guy directed was that was above it, but like
Need for Speed.
So I'm just like I
did see other people making pretty good comments about so this is the green screen AI generated background feature films that the tech bros want for the future.
This and like these types of movies come out all the time, but like this is one of those movies where it's like a joint synergy, like China and America making like this movie. There's like it's mostly another cast, and John Cena's here as like the American guy, and I'm like, generally those movies don't turn out very good because they're just kind of like cheap. We're gonna make a quick action movie with some stars, and like guys, I love Jackie Chan. Like he's not the same star that he was. Like he's not making huge blockbuster movies like he used to. And again, it's not me discrediting him, but like this looks like a straight to DVD movie. I'm being honest.
Yeah,
it looks like a straight to DVD movie. Again,
no,
those can be
absolutely
fine. I'm sure it's going to be like if I watch this, like I smoke a little doob and watch this on a Saturday night, I'm sure I'll have a fine time. But like I wouldn't go see this in the theater.
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah,
no. Yeah, I'm on the same vibe train as you. Yeah. I'm just like, it'd be cool if like there is some really cool chemistry between the two of them.
The director gets me no hope.
I remain waiting for Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson to reteam for a third Shanghai.
Yes, we were just talking about that. Yeah,
that's what
I think they are, aren't they?
The rumor's been there forever,
but I don't know if it's actually like
concrete
made.
Yeah, I want it though.
Yeah. All right. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
And this movie looks great.
That first trailer was so good, and this one was like, oh wow, all the villains really are.
My wife turned to me at the trailer before Spider-Verse today and was like, "Man, that looks really, really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does."
And not the greatest thing, but like one of the coolest things is like I thought this was like Sony thing because Sony has like they've really turned a corner on animation and with a lot of shit. And like, no, this is a Paramount movie. And I'm like, oh man, people are adopting like, oh, we can be inventive and do really cool shit in animation.
Ooh, Paramount.
Oh, Paramount. Transformers, don't disappoint me, please, because then
please not.
That subscription will be worth it. I think this looks just incredible. Like all the humor worked for me. Like the voice acting seems for the kids. Like they're actually kids, which is like really fun.
Yeah, they're actually ninjas. They're actually ninjas too.
They're actually all the words that their name is, which is really fun.
Yeah.
We get a sneak peek. We hear more, but we visually get to see like Jackie Chan's Splinter.
Mm-hmm. Don't say the word rat.
Yeah, man, it's 2023.
It's a cool interpretation. I'm excited for this. I think I'm really excited about the idea of them discovering other mutants and it immediately being a problem.
Yeah.
And like that's really cool.
There's more of us, but we're not all friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Sparks, about don't say rat. Like when Leo does rat him out, they're like, "You rat us out." He's like, "Hey, don't use that word." Mag just literally said it right there in the chat. Hey, Mag. And even like just the like, yeah, Ryan also said they're everything that their title is. They're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and like when they're just talking, it's like, "What do you want to do?" It's like, "Oh, go to high school," and all these things like teenagers want to do. So it's like.
I want to highlight this about this trailer, which is that compared to the previous one, we see so much more of environments and characters in motion and things like that. So we're really getting a even more of a feast for the eyes of what this animation is going to look like. This animation is really, really cool.
Yeah.
This is not. It's obviously like Spider-Verse has changed animation, but this is not like just trying to do what Spider-Verse is doing.
No,
this is doing something different. It's using similar like baseline ideas of tools, but like it's doing its own thing, and I think what it's doing is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it feels very much what I really like about the advent of this technology is that I've not seen two movies look the same. The Bad Guys doesn't look like Puss in Boots. This doesn't look like Spider-Verse. Like Mitchell's versus the Machine doesn't look like this. Like it feels very much like this variety entering into this art space that we haven't quite seen in a while.
Yep.
Well, I think part of what it is that I was thinking about this when because also the latest trailer for the Teenage Kraken movie
Ruby Kraken.
That played, and what I was thinking about is that like we're going back to something I think Pixar did really well with 3D animation that no other studio ever matched, is making diverse and interesting looking characters. I think the perfect example is the Monsters series, Monsters Inc. Monsters University. Compare just the average like extra character in the background of that to the Gilman series, right? Like in the film, like they all look the same, and in Monsters nobody looks the same. Like they're always so unique in the way that they're designed, and I think 3D films that aren't Pixar have gotten very like, you really like, if it's not a main feature character, or sometimes even if it is, they get very pared down to like stylistically being the same thing, kind of copying the character model and making some changes.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. And I think because of the 2D base in this animation style with Mutant Mayhem, with Puss in Boots, with Mitchell's vs. the Machines, Spider-Verse, you're encouraged for imagination even before the character modeling would happen.
Yeah.
And that's opened it back up to being like far, far greater in like, what can this look like?
Mag's got a good point. The grimy art style. Yeah. It like you see like every single brushstroke. Like it, honestly, you know, it reminds me of like a much more the latest scenes of the Clone Wars. It's like a much like that's more subtle version where you can see the brush strokes on every character's face, and this is a much more exaggerated where like you really see it, but in like not in a negative way. Where it's like it's so unique, and it's just like, man, like this and Spider-Verse coming out this year. I'm like, damn.
This looks really good. I'm really excited.
It does. Me too.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Shall we get into our main topic then?
Are we doing that, or are we doing our book club?
We didn't decide beforehand, so I guess we just stay the course.
Let's go into the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I don't know what happened there, but my thing was quiet for a while. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah, here we are. Main topic. That's kind of threw me a little bit. We are talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Full spoilers. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Full spoilers for this movie. If you have not seen this movie, do the whole spiel. Pause it. Whatever you want to do to go see this movie, go do it before you listen to us. Full spoilers. You have been warned. So let's get into it real quickly. Directed by Joaquin DeSantos, who directed Voltron and The Legend of Korra, Kemp Powers, who was co-director on Soul, and Justin K. Thompson. Sorry, I couldn't read my handwriting for a second. Who are the three directors for this one. And then it was written by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, with Dave Callahan, who wrote Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, Mortal Kombat, Wonder Woman 1984, Doom. Got quite the...
Wait, what was the last one you said? Doom. 2005's Doom?
Yes.
Man, he's really had enough swing.
Yeah, so he's a co-writer on this one. So, okay, so let's get right into it. What do we think? Ben, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right, I'll go.
No. I want to start like immediately hit the ground running with what I want to rate this movie, but I absolutely love it. When people have been saying that this is like the absolute best Spider-Man film ever made thus far, there was no hyperbole there. I cannot praise this movie enough on how beautiful it is, on how the story hits you like in the gut. There's a lot of great emotional beats, and there's a lot of things like, yeah, this is Miles' story, but other characters get the spotlight, specifically Gwen Stacy. This is one of those things where this is truly a comic book film where I feel like I'm looking at a comic book and the pages are coming to life before me on screen. I absolutely adore this movie. There's a reason why I'm putting this like as of right now, it's number 2 on my top 10. Zelda ekes it out just a bit, but holy crap. Across the Spider-Verse is absolutely amazing. I would absolutely love to go see it again. This is fantastic.
Sparks or Ryan?
Yeah, this movie's really good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. No, there's a lot of hyperbole you can throw around, but like this really is a special movie. Just like the first one, but like able to build on it, and not only include so many more animation styles and so many more characters and have it all balanced out so well, and improving on the animation and the scope of the movie while it still feels grounded in character, because it always comes down to character no matter how big your movie gets. It was really I'm really shocked that they really pulled it off, and to know that we're getting another one that will cement this as probably one of the greatest trilogies I've ever made. I want to throw around a lot of hyperbole, but I don't need to, because we all saw the movie.
Right.
Sparks?
It's spectacular Spider-Man. I loved it. I laughed. I cried. I I had a great time. It's really good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I only have one issue with it that I can't get over. I was hoping to see it again, to see if I could, but as it stands right now, I just only have the one issue. But other than that, yeah, great movie. So let's dive in. Where do we want to start?
I guess we'll start with your one issue.
Oh, I just don't think it's as tightly paced as the first film. I felt the first film, having watched them back to back, the first film is very tight. It's paced well. It moves. It breathes. This one, I think, breathed too much in certain points. Now, mind you, I don't know what I'd cut. Probably nothing. I think everything in here services the story and is really good. I just don't think it's as tight as the first one. That's really
I'll tell you what. Oh, sorry, Ben. I see you're going to talk about it.
No, I actually kind of agree with that. I do agree that it isn't as tightly paced, because when I saw the runtime for this movie, I was very surprised. But the Spider-Verse is also a 2-hour-long movie, and it works. Or the first Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse is tightly paced for a 2.5-hour flick. You don't really feel the runtime. Oddly enough, I do remember feeling the runtime a bit in this movie, but I wasn't annoyed. Because there are times where you feel the runtime of a film, and you just go, "Oh God, when is this going to end?" But this one is like, okay. But with this one, I'm watching it, and there's a point in the movie where I'm like, okay, I've been sitting here for a while now. I wonder if we're getting to the end point, but at the same time, I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying making it longer would have improved it. I am agreeing with Brandon that it's not. I mean, there are maybe a few pacing issues, but at the same time, those pacing issues didn't really take me out of the film, but I do acknowledge that they're there. And also, I agree. I don't know what to cut, to be perfectly honest.
I'll tell you, I also, and I compared it to Return of the King, the Sparks, after I saw it, but I don't have a problem with the pacing until the end of the movie. The last 20 minutes for me feels like, and this isn't a negative, I think all of it's great, but it feels like it's kind of dragging its feet to get to the big reveal. The last 20 minutes, once Miles kind of put back where he is, it takes a long time, and a lot of we're revisiting this character where they ended, we're revisiting this character, and for 3 separate times I thought the movie was going to end, but it kept going. And again, none of it's bad. I'm just like, man, I thought this movie was going to end 3 separate times. And I like the cliffhanger that we do leave on, but I thought there was 3 separate cliffhangers that we were going to be left on. So I agree, but I don't particularly it's not it still looks better than any movie I've ever seen in my life. So I can't complain too hard, kind of thing.
I'll jump in on that and say that I agree a bit with Ryan about the endings, the ending of the movie and where that falls. I don't have a problem with the pacing in the sense that I recognize that it is not as tightly paced as the first one. I give it some leeway, I guess, because the first one is telling a singular story, and this is telling a part 1 story. I know it's not called part 1, but we know it. We know it's a part 1 story. And to me, it feels like part of the reason they decided to go for a part 1, part 2 is because they decided that a lot of the character beats we spend a lot of time with in the early half of this movie, especially the fact how long it takes for us to actually roll into what the story is about is pretty surprising.
It's a long time
for an average film.
Yeah.
But I do think the point of it is that all of those things had to be there, or the next movie's not going to hit.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't know that for a fact, but I'm suspecting that's the case. Is that and I kind of appreciate it because rewatching Into the Spider-Verse, one thing okay, thanks, Emma. One thing that does, Jesus, she just threw my iPad on the floor. One thing that really does jump out to me as I wanted more of is specifically Miles' mom. I'll say, and Into the Spider-Verse. Mm-hmm. It's a very father-son story. It's a very masculine-focused story. That's not a problem, but it is something that when we come to this film, I did want more of that presence. And I would say this is a very much more balanced film, certainly giving in more of a female perspective because it's not just his mom, but also Gwen. And you get so much more of that in the front half of this film, which I think is important and is important for the character arcs of Miles, but also those other characters around him for where we're going and for what this movie's saying it's doing. So for me, it all kind of evens out as like, yeah, this is not paced like your usual film would be. It's paced like a part one. But for me, it works. I'm kind of jiving with it. Like the fact that we did spend as much time as we did with Gwen before we even hit a title card honestly amazed me, and I was just enthralled with it.
Nothing makes me happier than a late title card. Oh my God.
Yeah. Especially after that scene, especially after that scene, like that entire sequence of Gwen, and you see like where she hides her own police radio and where she hides her costume and every like in the drum set, and even just the opening where she's playing the drums and narrating it, and the drum beat just constantly gets faster and faster and more aggressive, and it's just like 10 seconds, or not 10 seconds, 10 minutes in, especially when we get her dressed up, and I love the ballet shoes. And when she goes out to fight the Vulture, I'm just like, this is like the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. And
you mean
like
Shakespeare?
10, 15.
Shakespeare Vulture.
Yeah.
So
Shakespeare Vulture.
I just want to put a capper on my thoughts on the pacing thing before we move on to what is my favorite part of the movie, which is that I agree with what all of you are saying, but I also kind of disagree because, like, as Ben said, I did feel the length of the film, which is not something I can say about a lot of films, especially animated movies, which is why I wanted to see it again, because now that I know kind of the pacing of the film, would I be more prepared for it? Maybe I wasn't exactly prepared for it in the beginning. But as Ryan said, what's very important is that you never want, and Ben said a little bit, you never want the movie to end because it's so pretty to look at. No matter what you're looking at, no matter what the pacing is, you're looking at a work of art. And that's what this movie is, quite frankly. Now, Ben, sorry to go into it, so if it's okay, I want to talk about the opening scene with Gwen.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite part of the movie. Not a slight on the rest of the movie. But I really like Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen. Spider-Woman, Ghost Spider, whatever her name is to this day of the week. I've read all of her books. I bought her stupid miniseries because she doesn't have a current ongoing right now, and that pisses me off.
I sold her #1 for $250 to help me pay rent.
There you go. I still have my #1. And so like I love her book. I love the art style of the first series before Ghost Spider. And so like seeing that book literally come to life on screen with the art style of her world very reminiscent of the art style in that comic, and her relationship with Captain Stacy, and everything, like it was just so special to me. Like that made me excited when I heard the Spider-Woman news. I'm like, yes, if it's anything like that, 20 minutes, I'm 100% on board.
Well, and I think, it's going to come up a lot in this film, but the commitment to, the different animation styles of the characters from the first movie had always been like cool, but now we're going to their worlds and playing with different animation and not looking the same and giving this new look each time that we're passing into these new worlds, I think is really special. And Gwen's is a hell of a way to start it, especially with the overlaying panels of her doing the drums as she's thinking about all this stuff. And I really like the opening monologue we're getting mixed in with it of why I think this movie kind of gets away with its part one-ness a little better is because like this is very much a part one of Miles' story, right? This is a full arc for Gwen, though. Gwen is starting the film telling us that, she feels like she hurt Miles in a way she can't make up for. And the whole movie is us getting to that point and what she's going to do about it, what decision she's going to make to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that if you argued like this movie's like through line, that is the through line, and then Miles has a through line through the two movies. But like Gwen has a through line for this movie. And I think that was why it was so smart to focus on her, start with her, give her that point where we know we're heading to something bad happening between the two of them. And then getting there and also giving us like, it's one of the reasons I don't mind the ending kind of going to the length it does, because it's the two things that are very right about like what they do with Gwen at the end is her conversation with Miles' parents and her showing the decision of her like getting the gang together because they're going to go help Miles. And that gives it a full circle whole thing. So I really, really love the choice. Starting on her was just so smart.
Oh, yeah.
And you mentioned the Mary Janes and her kind of going through the drums, just going through her history. What I really love about that is, then this is a little selfish, I'll fully admit. In the first film, Into the Spider-Verse, I actually just re-listened to this part in the review, fun fact, where I mentioned, I was like, I know there's no room for it in Into the Spider-Verse, but I do wish that we had more about Gwen's history, because she's dealing with a Peter Parker who's not her own, and how would that affect her? We don't really see that effect in that movie. And then we do in this movie. And so that was really exciting for me, because I'm like, oh, they're doing it. And Jack Quaid plays her Peter, which is cute. Right. We see her that version of the lizard, which is really a really cool design for the lizard. And that whole event play out that led to Peter's death. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just the comic. You're just the backstory. Someone put this really well on a tweet. So the backstory of this movie is comic books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's so cool.
And this movie never fails, like Ben said, like it's like you're watching a comic book. Like it never fails to, like, in between like transitions, like when we're going to the next chapter, of like throwing down a comic book with the cover that they're good, like the movie is referencing, right? It is really, really cool. Like,
I just want to respond to what Brandon was saying. So real quick, like, to Brandon's point of what he's saying, Into the Spider-Verse not going into that a lot, right? That's part of what kept that movie so tight. That was Miles' story. It was focused on Miles. It was focused on Miles' world. It's a very clear and very good story. It's a tight story. It's excellent. They tell it very well. It feels like there was an active decision, because they knew they were giving themselves the room of two films, that they made a decision of, does this make the character richer if we leave it? Then we leave it. Mm-hmm. And so allowing moments to last and to languish and to live makes it feel like so many more people, while we are thrown so many things in this movie, I feel so deeply connected to so many different characters in a way that, especially in an anime film, but in general, I don't think you get a lot when films throw this many characters at you.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was gonna extrapolate on Ryan's point about the whole comic book thing. I love it when you have comic book like reference, or not like references from comic books, but things you see in comic books, like the little editor's boxes that are sprinkled throughout the movie.
Love it.
Like the second, it's Oscar Isaac, but he's playing Miguel O'Hara. When Miguel says he has hammer space, and there's a little box that explains what hammer space is. I didn't read the whole thing, because I was like, oh shit, just like trying to watch the action and read what was said. But all the other like little bits, like when a character, I forget, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't there times when a character is thinking to themselves and it pops up as text in the text boxes?
Yeah, they do it in the first movie.
That happened in the first movie too.
I just love it when they do that, because to me it's just like it, when the writers and the creators, like the entire team who made this film, when they were making this, they never, like you said, Brandon, whoever made that tweet, the backbone is comic books. When they were making this movie, they never strayed from like, this is a comic book movie. Let's make it a legit comic book turned film.
You're absolutely correct, but I do want to correct. I didn't say backbone. I said the backstory for much of the characters of this movie is just straight from the comic books.
Yeah, when that first editor's box popped up, we got a pretty good reaction in our theater. Mm-hmm. So the comic fans for sure.
When the Comics Code Authority popped up, my theater erupted in applause.
I laughed. No one else did. I'm like, oh, I just love that little approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Yeah, it's a good bit. The first like 20 minutes being kind of like this is my story, but instead of it being the 30-second version, it's like a 20-minute short story, and it's awesome. And like Gwen's whole like monologue with the drums, but like there's so much more visually happening in this movie than the last movie, and that movie already had so much going on. But like as you see Gwen traveling, she's constantly seeing Miles in reflections. She is constantly being reflected as Ghost Spider, whether it's half or full. Anytime like a train door opens, she transforms into her character, or vice versa. Like this is like the busiest movie ever made. We see so many movies, guys. I'm just like, not that movies are ever like phoned in, but I'm just like, this movie specifically, like I see the 5 years that went into this movie. Like it is truly like God bless art. Like AI could never do this ever. That's why I'm not worried about AI, because like we got this shit. Look at this.
Highlighting on the Gwen stuff, the story choice that I think is so smart, right, is to what would push Gwen to stick with Miguel's agenda, right? And it's this I've lost whatever little I had left in my world because my dad was going to arrest me. And like you can make the argument that like if Gwen had revealed it differently at a different time, but like she certainly thought that if I told him he wouldn't be hunting Spider-Woman, but I'm afraid that if I do, he'll react the way that he does in the initial moment. And like it's such a good catalyst for pushing her into this narrative with Miguel, with this protection idea, but also that part of the reason she goes is because there's some backdoor way I'm going to end up seeing Miles again, which is what she wants to do. But the way that it all comes down on her and what it means, I think is so smart that it starts from that place. And again, like, this being this movie giving her a full arc, that we get to go back and see her with her dad and what that ends up actually being. And that's such a big, like, motivating push for her to be like, I'm going to go fix this.
Yeah. And so, so what's so interesting about that is that she also decides to stay away from her dad because she knows that it's Spider-Man's destiny to lose a captain, a police captain. Right. Mostly it's Captain Stacy. And so her dad is Captain Stacy. So she's thinking to herself that, oh, I'm going to lose my dad.
Right.
Dude, the first time they said canon event, I was like, no way, dude.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? We're doing this type of shit. Like what is the Nexus event type shit, but like for Spider-Man? Because that's a cool thing. Like we see the spider multiverse, but we also see the branches that we see in Loki first before it dives into the spider, like the sub dimension of the spider network, right? I'm just like, there's like so much synergy happening. Like whether it's attached to Sony movies, MCU movies, like this movie's weaving a thread through all of it so perfectly in a way that like I just wish all comic movies could be this smart about it.
Can I just say this is the most excited I've ever been seeing the Venomverse. When the Spot shows up in Mrs. Chen's place, I was like, "Oh shit!"
This is just a Tuesday.
That was such a smart cameo choice, was for it to be her and not anybody else from that universe. Because I feel like if it had been Tom Hardy, it would have been like. And this is in general with their cameos, with their Easter eggs, they know just the right amount to give you without like overlaying it. I think let's just like microcosm this real quick. Like the Andrew Garfield appearance, the Tobey Maguire appearance. They don't feel like they're playing to the cheap seats to me.
No.
They feel contextually relevant. We're talking about the times that a captain dies. This is a loss that happens in Spider-Man stories, and one of the times that's happened is Andrew Garfield. And so that we see it. We talk about Uncle Ben being a focal point, and they don't even like put it. It's not prominent. It's in the background, right? But we see Tobey Maguire with Uncle Ben, and like we know that's what it is. But like again, they're contextualizing. This happens all the time with Uncle Ben and all this kind of stuff. And like, what a smart way to allow those characters to be referenced, to appear. But I didn't feel like it was being ham-fisted with it. No. It was so smart. It was so selective of how it showed it. The Donald Glover cameo is so smart, so selective of how they do it. Because, like, is it the MCU one? Who knows? Could be. And, like, you can play in that space. You can just live that way with it. Obviously, Yuri Lowenthal and Josh Keaton as Insomniac Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man.
Hell yeah.
Really glad they get their moments to shine. Really excellent. We know there's other Spider-Men coming. You can't tell me that 90 Spider-Man isn't in the next one.
We got 60 Spider-Man for a hot second when he's swinging in and
no animation. The directors have said like they're saving like y'all. I know there was like 1,000 Spider-Man, but we have plenty more we didn't show.
Oh my god, the Spider Rex was so great when he just jumps into the air and just flip.
Yeah,
my fiance was dying of laughter when Spider-Rex showed up.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, once Spider-Cat came up and started scratching Miles' face, she was like, Spider-Kitty, because, she loves cats. But with Spider-Rex, even I'm just sitting there going, a mother effing T-Rex is a Spider-Man.
And Sparks kind of quickly went through them, but I do want to kind of spend a little bit of time on some of these cameos, because Spectacular Spider-Man surprised me, because he's got 2 vocal cameos. When we see him, both times we see him, he says at least a line. Then the second time we see him, he has a really impactful line where they're talking about like, "Hey, Miles, like you got to accept that these canon events. This is what being Spider-Man is like. This captain is going to die," and they know. And at this point, Miles knows that they're talking about his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
Yeah, we the Spectacular Spider-Man stuff. It's funny because the the voice actor, Josh Keaton.
Yeah.
He said he did that in April, which is not that long ago, and he wasn't even sure he was in the movie. And then on Twitter, Phil Lord was like, "Don't worry, bro, I got you." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool! I love it."
I love Josh Keaton's inclusion feels a lot like Andrew Garfield's inclusion in Spider-Man: No Way Home. That kind of like vindication of like, yeah, we got that. That's the one that needed to be in this.
Yeah, it's like the I mean, it's more than one person, but this person does it the best. Grant Morrison, they're a person who's like, everything matters. Every single issue came out. It's canon in my book. Just how do you recontextualize it? And it's like, it's a Spider-Man multiverse. Let's have every fun Spider-Man. Like, it's a fun animated movie. Like, of course there's a Spider-Man T-Rex. Why not?
But there's one constant. There's one more constant in every multiverse. J.K. Simmons is J. Jonah Jameson.
Bro, he showed up multiple times in different. I'm just like, work, sir. Get that money.
That was really fun.
Because he shows up first in the Lego universe.
I loved that bit. Like when the Spot pops into the Daily Bugle Lego set, everyone's like, ah! And then the fact that we even cut back to the Lego universe with Lego Peter Parker.
He just takes off his suit. He's just boop, 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 boop.
You're my best agent, Peter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you're one of our best, Peter.
I was just like, thank you, Lord and Miller, for going back to Lego for this.
Oh, real quickly, did you guys see the ass on Miguel O'Hara?
Yeah, so Chris Anka, who is a very talented comic book designer and artist, he's the new character designer for this movie, and he said that they had to shrink that ass multiple times because he designed it so thick on purpose. So he said, like, I see those thirst tweets about Miguel. Trust me, it was going to be bigger. And I'm like, that's a bisexual character designer for sure.
There is
beefy between the post-credit scene and this one.
He worked out.
I saw that. I was looking at that and I was like, I can't look away. It's everywhere.
Miguel's got it.
What's really funny about, because you mentioned the post-credit scene, what's really funny about the 1967 Spider-Man inclusion is that that's from the post-credit scene. So he actually succeeded in recruiting that guy.
Yeah, of course.
He was the first recruit of this Spider Society.
That's so good.
That post-credit scene. I'm kind of, if I had to get jumping a little.
Don't say it's a negative that we don't have a post-credit scene. Don't say it.
What?
Don't say it's a negative that we don't have a post-credit scene.
Okay, fine. I won't say it then.
I do like
the movie worse.
I do like where it ends, and the Miles Morales will return in Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse.
I do like that. I guess part of me was just hoping for another fun little snippet, because obviously the post credits from Into the Spider-Verse was hilarious and fun, and even in the Spider Society, I don't know why we're not sick of it. I'm glad we're not sick of it, but it's like
pointing.
All the Spider-Man pointing at each other. The background for Sparks and Ryan, their green screen is everyone. Or just all the Spider-Man just pointing.
Actually,
it
what's
just
really funny,
makes me so happy.
What's really funny about it is it looks like it's Spider-Man Unlimited, just kind of like, hey guys.
He's pointing to us.
Yeah.
Mag brings up Neil Patrick Harris Spidey. Hey man, next one. I bet you they're saving some people.
Neil Patrick Harris will cameo in anything, especially if he only has to do a voice.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's in the
MTV Spider-Man. Sure.
And they told us Spider-Man was going to be in this movie when Into the Spider-Verse, and he's not in this movie.
So there's also there's not a lot, but there are a couple frames from the trailer that aren't in this movie, and that they could just be cut. But people are also speculating that they could be from another movie because there's some Prowler stuff, but maybe Spider-Man was there and he got cut. He said he's got to be in the next movie.
They did.
Question: who was Andy Samberg? Which Spider-Man was
Ben
Andy
Reilly.
Samberg?
Ben Reilly.
Oh, next. Okay.
I was gonna say, I was about to bring up Ben Reilly. I love my boy Ben, but this is a context where we pull all kinds of jokes about all Spider-Men.
Yeah.
And so Ben Reilly being done the way he is, I'm like, yeah, that's fair. That's fine.
If you're getting he is the 90s joke. I mean, if you want to go even darker, you would do Kane, who's even a more edgy Spider-Man, which how do you get possible because Ben's really edgy. But it is I do see some Spider fans online who are mad that Ben's portrayed as Spider. Y'all, this ain't Ben's movie. What do you want him to do? He is the 90s edgelord. This is who he is to a lot of people.
Honestly, I saw some of that Twitter backlash before I saw the movie.
Yeah.
Because we saw it today. And I was like, man, how bad is it? And I went in and I'm like, this is fine. This is no more than we kind of give our jabbing teardowns of any other Spider character in this universe.
Absolutely.
This is fine. This is not egregiously shitting on this character. I don't know why Ben Reilly fans are freaking out. I don't think they need to.
I get it because specifically like the last couple of years, like right now Ben is Chasm, like he's a super villain. So like Ben really hasn't had the best luck the last couple of years.
No.
And like this is the first time in not live action, in like big movie form, we were seeing Ben Reilly and he's relegated to a joke. So I get it, but y'all can settle down.
Right. He looks great. I love the design. The way
Like
Andy
CG,
Samberg,
the way
Andy Samberg goes about the voice kind of reminds me. Those who have watched Abridged far enough will know what I'm referencing. It's really niche, but when Perfect Cell is making fun of Trunks' very muscular form, and he does a Trunks impression, that's what Andy Samberg sounded like as Ben Reilly. Hi, I'm Trunks, and like but it's very appropriate. Like it's being this very emo, edgy sound. That's what Cell's making fun of. That's what it feels like Andy Samberg is reaching into as well.
I think it's fun.
I think it's fun. I don't mind it.
I really like. So one of the this is two things. I want to write this down. I really like how the Peter Parker face has been put on different characters, but each time it looks different and distinctly different. Like you can tell it's not the same Peter Parker.
Right.
It's definitely a line, especially an interesting line that you walk, but I think they walk it really well.
Yeah.
Because when we see Ben Reilly, that's the Peter Parker face model, and rightfully it should be, but it looks distinctly different enough where we're like, oh right, that's not Peter Parker, that's Ben Reilly.
Right.
Blonde hair.
Yeah, you know, that kind of goes back to like that's how good they are at differentiating the different universes that we see, and all the characters from the different universes that we see. Because we see Bagman and he's 2D. I thought that was cool, but also Andy Samberg's voice. This could just be a me thing, but one of the things I really like is that Chris Pine. Oh shit! Who plays Peter B. Parker? Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson.
Andy Samberg. They all and Jack Quaid. They all kind of have the same cadence as Peter Parker. They're not the same voice, obviously, and you can tell that they're different voices, but they speak in the same kind of way. That kind of like white raspy voice. It's really weird this is a really weird thing to compliment and kind of notice. But I do kind of feel like that's the case when they cast the Peter Parkers. So I really like that you can tell that vocally they're also the same while not also being the same.
Yeah, it's similar but different.
Yeah. Man, this movie's good.
Anyway, on the point of all those, because we just went through so many of them, I never felt like anybody was played up for comedy in a way where it was taking away from the larger film or given bits or gags or any of that kind of, like, everything felt appropriately given the space that it should have.
Yeah.
I think for a movie juggling so much, and for a movie that is running as long as it is and filling up with so many things, that in itself is so impressive.
I was really surprised at how long it took us to get to the Spider Society.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're called in the movie.
Spider Society.
It's a long time. Like we already talked about, it's a long time until we get the title card. But it's just to reinforce, while that might have been a lot of the marketing, that's not what the movie's about. This movie's not about a bunch of Spider cameos. This movie is about Gwen and Miles.
Yeah.
I think
and both of their kind of journeys to, you know, Gwen even says in the beginning of the movie when she's talking to Miles, you know, Gwen Stacy's and Peter and Spider-Man's, she doesn't say Peter Parker, she says Spider-Man's, don't end well.
Yeah.
You know, kind of reserved to her fate within the canon. But she's different Gwen Stacy than the Gwen Stacy the other spiders know. Miles is different than the other Spider-Mans. Is that kind of like idea that like we need to escape that, because why is it this way? We don't have to follow our predestined destinies, right?
It is.
I really like it. It's cool.
Yeah, like the central. First of all, like the Spot is a great fun villain. Like he is the villain of the next movie, like in the grander scheme. But like he kind of relocates to like the first half of the movie, and then Miguel's kind of the villain of the second half. But like the whole premise of this movie being that like we as a Spider Society have to keep all the Ben Parkers dead, and we have to make sure all these people die. We have to stick to the canon because that's all we know. We can't break tradition because we don't know what happens, because we think we'll break reality. But it's just like a vicious cycle that they won't even try because it did not work for Miguel. That does not mean it will not work for everyone else, right?
And he's using what happened in Spider-Man India's world, what happened, that kind of like that universe is starting to unravel itself, and Miguel believes it's because
their captain didn't die.
Yeah, they thwarted a canon event.
Well, and also like really important context that he like totally skips over, right? He says canon event being undone is what ruins a universe and gets it destroyed. That's not what he did. He didn't undo it. He took someone else's place. That is a different thing, my guy.
Yeah.
You didn't make it so that Miguel O'Hara there didn't die. You took his place, a person from another universe.
Miguel's the bad guy here, so like easily. Yeah.
But the other thing I like about, to your point of what you're saying, like of this the Spider-Man mythos idea that they're all getting behind, of like at a certain point you have to accept an amount of loss to be Spider-Man, and that they're all kind of going with this mission. What I like about it is that like it makes sense. You can make an argument for every single one of these characters, how they could have wound up there, especially with so many of them already committed to the idea.
Yes.
But like that kind of guilt and that sense of how Peter Parker and then Peter Parker variants, and then extrapolate further and further until you get down to Miles, right? Before you get to Miles, that all of them kind of take this interpretation of with great power comes great responsibility, and they take that sometimes to put the entire world on them, and that becomes absolute responsibility, which those two things are not the same.
Yes.
Like being responsible with your power also means being responsible to the people you care about. And like that is a balance that Peter is not good at. That's part of who the character is. So what I like about it is that it's driving from that point with all these characters to do something that's so generationally true right now, and have all of these spider people say, well, we all had to lose something, so you have to lose something too, Miles.
Absolutely.
We couldn't have it good, so you can't have it good either. And that, even though those characters, a lot of these characters that are not Miguel, right? That's not the way they mean to say it, but it is what they're saying.
Absolutely.
And having Miles be like, that's not how it's going to work.
Bro, look how Spider-Man India is the dopest dude, right? That dude, he's like the only Spider-Man who's not depressed. He has a great life. He wakes up and he doesn't work out because he doesn't want to get too big. Like that dude lives a perfect life, and he gets to keep the captain. Hell no, Miguel would never allow it. That guy, the captain's gotta die. Everyone's gotta live my sad life because that's how reality has to be, right? Nobody. Oh, it's so good. I love it.
They have to figure out what's causing that hole, because if Miguel's right, then yeah, Miles would have to. But also, Miles is what they changed in the story is what's so interesting is how they changed Miles' backstory a little bit to be that he was never supposed to be Spider-Man, and it's because he was bit that his Peter Parker died.
Well, what I love about it is that like they didn't change his backstory; they just expanded on it, right? Because the spider always came from another dimension, and we knew that. Mm-hmm. We knew that in the first one, that it didn't come from his home dimension because it glitched. Yeah. And I think that was so smart to take that as a tool and a cue to say, well, the problem that they have is that he wasn't supposed to be bit by that spider. And that was such a smart like way to reverse around on all of this and make Miles the anomaly. And real quick to your point about the hole in India, for Spider-Man India, Miguel gets to conveniently say that like fits his narrative, right? But we know that hole it started because the spot created a hole with the collider, and then it made the building fall, and the hole fell with the building.
Yep.
So that collider hole was in the building and went down. It's not because of what Miles did, not in the saving sense, right? Like that's not what's ruining that world right now. So I do think like there's room to like play with, like Miguel has created a narrative that he believes is true out of his experience that is not necessarily accurate.
Yeah. While we're in India, in Manhattan,
which is beautiful.
This is my favorite section of the movie, specifically once the spider team's in action and they have to stop that giant building from collapsing on that bridge. That is one of the most spectacular. And I didn't mean to use the Spider-Man verbiage, but I did.
Do it.
It is one of the most spectacular action scenes I've ever seen, of all them working together, going through buildings, saving people, so much destruction happening. I'm like, Jesus, man, this is a superhero movie.
Something about it. Oh, sorry, Ben. Just real fast. It's something I love about it throughout all the time is when they're going to all these other worlds. All the spider characters, like even if they're not agreeing with each other or something's not right in the team composition, the moment innocents are in danger, they're all on it. It's all part of who they are.
Yep.
Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say to Ryan, I was like, I'll use Spider-Man verbiage. It's amazing.
It's all
this whole movie is amazing. It's spectacular. It's superior. I'll do it all day.
It's friendly neighborhood. Damn it, I fucked it.
It's true.
No, it is.
It's true.
One of the things I wanted to are we done on this point, or are we moving on, or are we want to stick with this point?
Go across the Spider-Verse, Ben. Do what you want to
go.
No,
Do
because
what you want to do.
No, because one of the things I really wanted to talk about this movie is how well the background artists and just artists in general make every single universe different. How you were in a different universe, be it a color palette, the way the buildings are drawn, the backgrounds are drawn, the characters are drawn. Mag mentioned earlier about how where did it go? Oh yeah, this one where he said top anime movie of the year for me. Certain spider characters are animated in different ways. Spider Punk, when the entire time Spider Punk is on screen, he is 100%. He is in it. He's Punk. He's different every single time. His art style is different. He's like those cutout things you cut out of a newspaper and slap it on something else. It's amazing how
Ben,
he never fits.
I got a fun little fact for you. Spider Punk's art style is constantly changing because he doesn't believe in consistency.
There you go.
And I noticed that. I noticed that because when he shows up in Nueva York, I was like, "You're animated differently."
No, like he is constantly changing colors mid talking too. He is always changing. It is.
Yeah,
It is.
I love it.
It's insane.
It is great, and even I noticed this when Gwen Stacy was forced back to her own world and she confronts her dad, how the background of it's a lot of brush strokes. There's not a lot of detail in it, but because there's not a lot of detail, your focus is on Gwen Stacy and essentially bearing her soul to her dad, and how nothing else in the world matters. It's just Gwen and her father.
Dude, Ben, that is so astute. That is so astute. Like, because it starts in a regular room, and then as Gwen keeps talking, the room around them melts. It's like literally like the paint starts fading away as you focus on the characters. It is some artistic genius, dude.
That and the color changes with the emotions of characters in Gwen's world. I'll say this is true throughout. That like what is the emotionality of whatever character's focusing on? It can be Gwen, but it can also be your dad. It changes the color of what's happening in the room.
Yeah. I mean, besides that, there's another point I wanted to mention earlier.
Real quickly, before you get off of that, I just want to say on Sparks' thing, because I know you're moving on, that it's a really great way to interpret that art style from that comic, because putting in emotion, kind of that painterly melting that happens in that discussion. Excellent. I cannot praise it enough.
Yeah. And there was earlier when we were talking about, there's something Brand said about how long it takes us to get to the Spider Society, because we all knew the Spider Society was going to be in the movie. It was in the trailer. It was a big part of the trailer. And I just love how that's not the focal point of the film. I mean, yes, this film is called Across the Spider-Verse. You do go across different Spider-Verses, but that's not the point. The point is Miles. The point is Gwen. And I love how even the beginning of the movie, when we see the different Spider people, how it is cool seeing all these different Spider people, but at the same time, I'm invested in Miles' story. I'm invested in him trying to balance being Spider-Man and talking and living up to his parents' expectations.
I'll be honest, I did a lot of Leo DiCaprio pointing.
I think everyone did. Like, yeah. But when we do finally get to the Spider Society, it's like this grand payoff. But at the same time, it's not just like to me, the writing of this movie is genius. The writing is genius because while it brings in that grand multiversal stuff, and it brings in that grand, like, let's bring in as many Spider people as audiences, just as general audiences may or may not know, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a story about Miles trying to stop the Spot from essentially killing his dad, and Miguel saying, no, this is canon event. It has to happen.
So is the Sinister Six movie ending with Miguel O'Hara taking Adrian Toomes back to the MCU? Because that's what he's doing in this movie.
I absolutely love that they just by sheer like fun of having Shakespearean old school Vulture, they made sense of that Morbius thing happening. Or why would a Vulture show up because of Into the Spider-Verse? And I'm just like, you didn't have to do this, but you did, and I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I love that when they're running through all the various villains that don't belong in their universes, there's an actual rhino. It's like there's a real rhino.
Yeah.
And like we knew the line was there, but I do appreciate the like, don't get me started on Doctor Strange, that nerd from Earth 1999.
Yeah.
Like super fun. Really glad it's there. They really do such a great job with blending all of this multiverse stuff, but keeping the heart of Gwen and Miles and the story that's happening to the two of them at the center of it. They're so good at it. They're so good at not losing focus on what the movie's supposed to be about. And I think like we're just so used to films aiming for the sky with these kinds of Easter eggs and cameo appearances. And usually when they do, they start even it can still be a good movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie when they do this, but like we've often had a conversation where we're like, yeah, they reach for the sun and they got
it doesn't
a little
feel
burned
like
here.
natural.
Yeah. They stretch themselves a little too far for the Easter egg and that kind of thing. And this is just one where that I just don't feel it ever. I never once felt like this was inappropriate. They shouldn't have done this here. This was a little too much of this, blah, 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 blah. Like we can talk about like the length of scenes and the pacing of things, but the way that they entrenched the use of the multiverse and the different characters never felt like it was out of purpose.
Yeah.
And that's just so impressive on its own. To Ben's point about what he's talking about, like the environments and everything, what a great playground for these animators to be able to test out new things. Like this is, taking the lessons from Spider-Verse, the first one, and going beyond that even further to expand on what is possible in animation. What is possible now that we're willing to bust open those doors and really set things on fire and say like, do it new, do it different, do it wild, do it better. Also, these animators have such mastery of spider people in motion.
Yeah.
They are so crisp and clear.
So many different types.
So many different types. The fact that all these characters move differently. We got our Spider-Man India Privateer, who like the way he moves.
Oh, with the bangles.
Like with the bangles and everything.
Goodness.
Just a totally different movement style. The way he like kicks up his legs compared to Hobie, compared to
Miguel has laser whips,
compared to Miguel, compared to Miles, compared to Gwen, compared to some of our extras like that we see in the side. Like it's so cool that they think about the movement details down to how does this character move. How Jess moves because she's pregnant, because they factor that into who she is. Really smart, really great.
While we're talking about Jess, this is not a negative, but I thought she was going to be in the movie considerably more. I needed more of her because she was cool. I don't think she's in the movie enough.
Issa Rae's great. I think that like
I think she's underutilized.
I think you functionally have to keep her at arm's length because of what's going on between her and Gwen.
Yeah.
And again, like that feels like something where just from like the visuals we're given at the end of the movie, that there's more to develop.
Oh there. Yeah. It'll definitely be more in the second movie.
And it does feel like she kind of has to remain like staunchly the person who stands next to Miguel and says that like, nah, he's right for sure.
Yeah.
I like her moments where she bonds with Gwen.
Yeah, I think she's gonna turncoat in the next movie for sure.
I think the whole thing is gonna turn on Miguel. Like this is the thing, is like all these spider people, like they're bought into the idea right now.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is so smart. Is like I don't think that they don't mean to say that Miles has to go through this because they went through this.
Yeah.
But like that's the mentality they're bringing to it. They're like, yes, this grief is part of being a spider person, and thus it must exist. And Miles is rightfully standing there and saying, absolutely not. Like if I know I can save my dad, it is my responsibility and my pleasure to be able to go and save my father.
Honestly, this movie has a lot in relation with Loki, believe it or not, because Loki is an abnormal variant who shouldn't exist, and that whole show is about correcting the timelines and whatnot. So like, I really like that we are able to explore that in different capacities. And like, I love Loki, but like, this is such an emotional movie while still being about 1,000 different Spider-Men. Like, it is the sheer willpower of like these creatives are like, you can do something like this, and it can feel like this.
But it's not about what's so brilliant about it. What you just said, which just clicked in me, it's not about 1,000 Spider-Man. It's about Spider-Man. It's about just the concept of being Spider-Man, and in that case, it becomes very singular. So they don't have to balance 1,000 different characters because it is just about the very like one of the things that's in Into the Spider-Verse that I while watching it, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to go in more into this in Across the Spider-Verse, which is that it's very lonely being Spider-Man. At least it used to be before everyone was 616. But it's very lonely being Spider-Man. And all these spiders that we meet in the Spider-Verse, they're lonely. They're the only Spider-Man. They're the only Spider-Person. They only have each other. And across the universe takes that and runs with it. Being Spider-Man is a lonely existence, but they're making you. They're saying you have to be lonely. That is your destiny as Spider-Man.
Yeah. Right. And that's the thing, right? Is that that's where Miles is, right? We pick up with Miles, and Miles has no friends. It's been 1 year and 4 months, and he has no real friends. He's kind of friends with Genki, but like that's real like face like
Genki does not want to be the guy in the chair. This is not the same Genki as the other Genkis we've seen.
It's really surface level stuff. And I think you mean Ned.
Ned. Yeah. Same character. Yeah, same character.
They reference it in a line. They know what's up.
Yeah.
But Miles has he's gone like that path that like it's a good story beat where he's allowed himself to become very much more Spider-Man than he is Miles at this point. Like, especially in his personal life, like he's all about being Spider-Man. He's not really about, like, while he is thinking about his future, he's thinking about his future in a very like personal and selfish and Spider-Man related way of like, what's he talking about? He wants to go to Princeton because they're studying dimensional stuff. He wants to find a way to be his friends again.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about like living the life he's living in his world anymore. And he's not thinking about being Miles in that world anymore. And that's like where the story with the parents is so grounding and so strong and so good. And so thematically, it's the whole point of like, that's what his parents are saying to him. That's what this whole universe is saying to him is like, hey, you got to be lonely. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not what I wanted. That's not the way I wanted any of this to be ever. And it's so, so good because it is all of these spider people are eventually going to go, oh, no, it doesn't. Ryan put it very succinctly when we came out of the movie that, like, you look at the comics right now and they're so constantly, like, dragging Peter Parker back to the same baseline of Peter Parker has to suffer, Peter Parker has to lose, can't have Mary Jane, can't be happy, can't all these things because it's his responsibility to use his powers, and that always has to come at the sacrifice of things that are personal. And this is very much flying in the face of that and saying, like, you are interpreting that phrase wrong. And you have been being spider people around that phrase wrong. And that's what Miles is saying. Miles is saying, I'm different. We all should be different.
Yeah. And there has been some interesting conversations online about how, like, we just had No Way Home come out, right? And we all like that movie. And that movie is very much a, hey, you have to be Peter Parker and suffer to be Spider-Man type of thing. And I think both can exist. Mm-hmm. I think you can be Peter Parker and have gone through that. And then the next generation going, I don't have to go through that. I'm not the same as you. I think both can exist. And I think, because I had a friend of mine, like say like, oh, I really hate No Way Home for doing what with May and all that stuff. And I'm like, I respect that. I disagree. I think two things can exist at once. And I think Into the Spider-Verse, like, or Across the Spider-Verse, like, really helps define that. And like, that is a true thing that did happen, but it doesn't have to happen for everyone that way. It doesn't have to.
Right. You know, it's kind of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? Like, just because I have this trauma doesn't mean I should pass it on. And that's what Miles is saying. Like, yeah, you guys went through this. Maybe it's Peter Parker's destiny to go through this, but why is it Miles Morales's?
Absolutely.
Importantly, something that I think is so smart, and I wouldn't be shocked if it comes back around in a textual, very clear way in the next film, is that Miguel is making this argument like, you're not supposed to exist. Spider wasn't supposed to bite you, all these things, right?
Yep.
What else does he do, though? He shows all these important moments in Spider-Man lives. One of those moments is Miles holding Aaron's hand when he dies into the Spider-Verse, because the universe readjusted to the fact that Miles is now Spider-Man.
Yes.
So he has that important moment. He is part of the web. You can't say he's not Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
He had the moment.
This is also why it's so good that, again, this is a sequel to an incredible movie where the whole message was anybody can be Spider-Man.
Right.
This is the Last Jedi situation of literally, like, it doesn't matter who you're related to. Like, you're not even Peter Parker. Like, the spider wasn't meant for you. You can still be good enough to be Spider-Man. And like, that is so important.
And he's trying to, and Miguel's also trying to add, because you're right, like, he lost his uncle. That's one of the canon events. You lose your uncle, and then you lose the captain. And so, like, one of the things that was so interesting about Miles being included there is that Miguel already played his hand, right? Like, he already showed Miles that he is part of the web, but then later he's trying to get into Miles's head by telling him the spider wasn't supposed to bite you. Your Peter died because you were bitten. He is trying to give Miles that burden to live with because he believes that is the only way to win.
Right.
Because all Miguel knows is suffering, unfortunately.
Right. And he aligns that, like, that this is not the way the thing is supposed to be, but he doesn't actually, like, it doesn't matter. But, like, in wider universe rules, right? Like, Miguel doesn't know exactly how things are supposed to work. That spider from Earth 42 might have been meant to bite this Miles. That can be how things are meant to be, so that there is a world where there is no Spider-Man. Like, that can be the through line. And so I think it's very smart that it's, like, showing you there are holes in what Miguel's doing. So, like, it's not just driven from a fact that, like, we love Miles and we love Miles' dad, and that's why Miles is right. Yeah. There's clear factual reasons of why, like, Miles should be standing against this, and why the spider people are probably going to come around on it as well.
And dude, like, when Miles is when Miguel is chasing Miles, and And this is a 15-year-old kid, right? This is a 15-year-old teenager. Miguel is slamming this kid's head into that train.
Oh yeah,
and he's whispering the meanest, like, "You are nothing. You do not deserve to." I'm just like, dude, this is so personal right now.
I really love at the beginning of the movie when we're in Gwen's world and he's got the Vulture and he's about to bite him, and then he puts his mask back on the helicopters.
The
like,
vampire stuff,
Hey, you got to get back down to the ground and calm down. And he's like, "I'm a good guy." And it's like, "You don't look like one."
I'll bring it around for the end, but y'all, it's very interesting that we have vampire shit that they never address in this movie. It is very incredibly interesting.
Someone does call him vampiric at one point.
Yeah.
Like when tells Miles he's like a vampire.
Yeah,
and we see him doing the injection.
Yeah, that's as far as I'm concerned, that's not a normal Miguel O'Hara thing.
No,
that'll be fun, spicy stuff in the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about the Spot very much.
I love Jason Schwartzman.
I really love how they animate the Spot. I really love his banter with Miles. I think it's some of the most fun in the movie. Nice. And when he's like, "So what is this? A suit or skin?" It's like, "Unfortunately for both of us, it's skin."
This is my skin. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is really funny. And I adore that his origin story is my favorite joke from the first movie in CBM history, which is, he took a bagel.
Yeah.
He's the guy who got hit by the bagel. Man.
He got hit by the bagel, and he was like apparently deeply involved in the collider and everything. That's all cool. What I love about it is that they do such a good job of like putting you on Miles' level of like, this guy,
ramping up how bad he becomes.
This guy is a joke, and then like how serious
Sinister.
it gets and how quickly.
Yeah. Not only that, I just love the design of the Spot and also how they draw him, because you could still see the outline lines of hit, because he's not like completely animated. It's not just the spots. I mean, like the blue sketch lines of like this of the skeleton, of like when artists like they try to build like a character's physique, you still see those lines. But also the skeleton. But also what I love is like later on in the movie, like when this, like obviously the Spot is an antagonistic force. I would argue that Miguel is the real antagonist, because between Act 2 and 3, he's like actively trying to screw over Miles. But what also I love is how the Spot goes from someone who was a joke, who was like, yeah, of course this guy is nothing. I mean, yeah, he has interesting power, but he can't even control it, to absolutely freaking terrifying. Like when there is just something about just simple line art with characters. There's no discerning features. It looks like a bunch of scribbles. That just is so unsettling to me, especially when it's applied to a villain who can warp and destroy reality.
I just realized what the design of the Spot reminded me of. Sparks. The anti-spiral.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very much that kind of similar line work, right?
Yeah, it's not dissimilar. I think what's been more interesting is a lot of people pointing out, and I think rightly so, that when he takes on the full, like, mostly black look that he has near the end of the
Super Spot,
he looks very emblematic of Miles' graffiti from the first film. Where he put his silhouette in the middle of No Expectations, and that being like a visual connection between the two. I think that there is something to that, but you're right. Like there is an anti-spiral. Null has recently been on my mind, so like some kind of Null's reference with the spiral stuff as well. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I don't think they're doing anything with that to do with Null at all. But using spiral art is always kind of cool. It's always kind of indicative of like. Something kind of getting out of control. And I really, really like it. What I think is so wonderful about Jason Schwartzman is he's so good at playing the comedic side of the Spot and playing the sinister side, and like and how that evolves over the course of the film. I really love when we get some of my favorite stuff with him is when we're in India, because you get this section of him getting chewed out for being like, "Don't eat, pray, love me, man," and he's like, "No, I didn't mean it like that."
Yeah. Don't eat, pray,
I love chai tea. No.
You're saying TT.
And him being like that, but at the same time, like he's so focused on Miles, and it's like they're like, "Which Spider-Man do you mean?" And he's like, "Yeah, him," and takes Miles down and is giving him a lot of good hits. I think that's really, really solid. This very personal dynamic between them. It's going to be really interesting to see. I'm very the way they've set the Spot up. This is kind of like our comic too, with like some of the most valuable things. No Way Home does it of Spider-Man is like seeing something inside the villains and recognizing it and recognizing how to like reach them and connect to them. And like they've got good setup with the spot for Miles to do that, for him to like what he really wants is for Miles to just take him seriously. And what he did and take responsibility for it, right? Because that's kind of what Miles is just rolling off his shoulder.
You go break.
This is gonna sound really weird, but because the Spot is a much more interesting villain at this point in this movie, but like he kind of feels a little bit like Gwen's bodega bandit, who was this character that would rob bodegas, and all he wanted was Gwen to take him seriously as a supervillain.
He's the shocker.
He's the shocker. So like I really like that idea.
I do too.
That is the kind of motivation for this villain. Like, I just acknowledge me.
Yeah. Well, and I what I liked even more than it was this idea of like their lives being so deeply intertwined, because it wasn't just the collider thing, that the collider is what created him. He also is the one who brought the spider there. Yeah. And I think that was really smart too.
I created you, you created me.
I'm the one who brought the spider out. You are who you are because of me, and I am who I am because of you. And like in a way where like neither one was intentional. You know? But nevertheless, they are intertwined in that way. It was a really cool and organic way to do it. I think the way they came back around on the Earth 42 and the spider and all that stuff was really, really smart. Just really sharp at seeing the opportunity you had that was left there from the first film and saying yes and to it, rather than like totally pulling out new directions and that kind of thing. Like this all feels like it was so absolutely baked in the entire time.
Yeah.
Whether it was or wasn't, like it doesn't matter. It feels like it was always there.
You brought up Earth 42, and I want to say we can talk about the animation being so good, and it is. One of the things that I really love about the animation is that in Earth 42, the animation is different, but it's hiding that it's different up until the reveal. And because like if you're not really paying attention, it does look like Miles's universe because it's shrouded in the darkness.
The colors gave it away for me.
I hear you. I feel like maybe if we weren't cutting between
I'm not saying that I was fooled by it. I was just saying that I really like it as a visual style, because there is a tell that is the outside colors are very different. Miles' street in 1610 is lit up with this nice orange light, whereas 42 is not.
I didn't mean to suggest that I thought you were fooled by it. I was just saying that I think the way that it is so clear, I think like I don't think the movie's trying to trick you or hide it, I would argue, because I think it is very clear, because it's cutting between Miguel O'Hara and the others being in Miles' world, and then cutting to Miles there, and it's like, well, that's very clearly not the same place. That is not the same city. And like I think I wish they hadn't drawn out the reveal that he's in the wrong world for quite as long. Personally, I think if there is a beat that doesn't totally work for me, it was him confessing to his mom, because I knew from the jump that it, like long before, that it wasn't his mom. Like I knew from the moment that he gets scanned that it's not going to be his mom.
Yeah, and because it tells you.
And I think that scene maybe goes a little long for the emotional like confession that's supposed to be for him before he realizes I would have had him glitch partway through or something, so that he knows very quickly that he's in the wrong place. Something else, like looking around the room for him or something, because I don't think the audience is supposed to be fooled, or if they were, then I wouldn't have shown Earth 42 when he got scanned. If you hide that number, then I think the visual cues, everything after that, leaves the audience to figure it out when they want to figure it out.
I don't think anyone is supposed to be fooled, except for Miles. That's the point I was trying to make, that I wanted to just kind of like squash right now and make very clear. It's for Miles, because Miles, the animation style of the world is different from 1610, but it's being hidden from Miles and therefore slightly from us. We already know it's the wrong world. We see it scanned to 42. It's different color palette. We know it is. The audience is not supposed to be fooled here, but Miles is. And I find that to be such a smart choice, that the movie, at least for the most part, won us in Miles's head, which is why it does that. I just think it's interesting.
No, I agree with you. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm trying to say is that the confession to the mom goes too long because of that. Because I don't think the audience is supposed to be tricked. That is too long of a scene.
I was about to add that I do agree with that. That's part of the pacing issues that I had. I was not saying that was the point you were making. I was just making clear my point because I felt I hadn't. So let's move on.
What I really like about that section is when Miles is swinging to what he thinks is his home. and what's going through his mind is happening in the environment, music video style, right?
Mhm.
The train following away, there are tentacles from Liv coming after him.
Oh, it's so good.
All this kind of stuff. Very, very good. Very much like, accentuating Miles' headspace. Also a crafty way to kind of hide what's maybe going on with the world. Again, if you wanted to trick the audience, which I don't think that was the goal. But like it makes it more visually dynamic what we're getting expressed from Miles' perspective.
It was nice seeing those tubes because like I miss Liv. I hope she shows up in the next one. Superior
For sure.
Superior Liv.
That's so interesting. The first film, I always forget that the first film introduces a Dr. Octopus for Gwen Stacy that was never adapted into the comics.
Right. Yeah. You just get the metal arm at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gwen Stacy never had an octopus.
We haven't talked about Peter B. Parker.
No, love him.
I was surprised that he comes in so late. Good for him. Good for it. But I was surprised.
I also wanted more of him. Not that it's bad. It's like, oh man, he's definitely gonna be more in the next movie. But I wanted him more.
Also, Mayday is a treasure.
Oh my god.
I absolutely adore her. I will take a bullet for that child.
Interesting, different Mary Jane voice actor back in his world, not Zoe Kravitz. Back this time as Mary Jane, different actor.
Okay.
But I wanted to make a quick note of that. What I want to say, Peter B. Parker really liked the amount. Frankly, I think he's in the movie the right amount for this movie.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. He's in it and important for the amount that he's supposed to be. I really, really love his beat when he's coming after Miles. He's like, I have her because of you.
Yeah.
I have her because I wanted her to be like you, Miles, because I think you're awesome.
Yeah.
And like all
I like being around you.
Yeah, so good. I think that it really works as this evolution of the character we met in Into the Spider-Verse.
And it makes the betrayal hurt so bad that him and both betrayed him.
That they didn't. Yeah. But what I also want to say to that is I'm glad they didn't try to push. Again, this is them really knowing like what's the story about, that they didn't try to push Noir or Peter Porker into this movie. They appear at the very end, which makes sense. Like, Gwen's getting the people who care about Miles back, and people have rightly pointed out that like, who knows where Peter Parker necessarily would have landed, but Noir 100% would have been on Miles' side. Not agreed with this whole establishment of suffering thing.
Yeah.
Penny has a seminal part in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, she's in a new mech, which looks really cool, but she says she has this kind of like the last gut punch to Miles in that big kind of like confrontation scene.
Yeah, that she's part of it as well. And I think that was the right amount to leave her in it too. Again, knowing we are getting more of those characters in the next one.
Yeah.
But I think they were very, very good at selecting like who needs to be here for how long that is relevant to the story we're telling in this movie. And I think they were very, very smart about how they chose where the Into the Spider-Verse characters returned.
Yeah, it's really cool that we're getting the team back together, but also now we have like Team Miguel, who is Jess and Ben Reilly.
Well, and we have the new members like Hobie and Privateer. Who's like on Miles' side because Miles is responsible for saving the captain in his world. So like this God, I love Hobie. What I love about Hobie is that Hobie as Spider-Punk and played by Daniel Kaluuya, who's doing an incredible job. He is supposed to be like full-blown punk anti-establishment. It's just as you were saying, like in the comic, it's kind of watered down. These are a bunch of people who are putting like Black Lives Matter stickers on Miles' backpack and everything. He's gonna be the socialist that he, like anarchist that he is, where he's gonna say like the system is terrible and the system's always terrible and don't trust it. And so I'm so glad that Hobie from like beat one, once like he's connecting with Miles and like he tells him like you gotta use the palms, and that he gives him the indication on that he's like, yeah, don't trust this. Yeah, don't trust this, man.
I love his line. He's got this line: "Don't enlist until you know what war you're fighting."
Yes. Yeah.
As he's like, "I quit. Bye."
And it's a great, and it's honestly such a good setup because Hobie's set up as like this guy in Miles' mind, and as the audience perspective of like being with Miles, this competition guy for like a love triangle with Gwen, and that's what like Miles is anticipating with this guy, and Hobie's just like, "Dude, I'm telling you, you don't want in. Like, I know what they think of you, and you don't want it. So be ready to
also
bounce."
How do you get cooler when you take your mask off?
Yeah.
I love the line.
And again, his art also exceptional.
I love the line where Miguel's like, I don't even know what to do with you. I'm not even here, above.
Yeah.
I love it when he says, "I don't have a Scooby-Doo," which is like Cockney slang for "I don't have a clue."
Oh, I love how it translates as Cockney.
Yeah. And then of course, like when Mayday is like, "Oh, she took a grab," he's holding Mayday and goes, "Take a grab and establishment. Respect."
Yeah.
And she's doing shit. And he's like, little anarchist.
Like, and Hobie is just one of the best additions to Spider.
Yes.
I knew we were getting Spider-Punk, but just the fact, even when he's like doing his whole little backstory, he's like, I'm not going to reveal to you my secret identity. And then he takes the mask off. I just love how Miles is like, how are you even cooler? He's like,
I really love how they incorporate him into the story and what it means for Miles' inclusion, to go off of what Sparks was saying. Of every spider in this movie is very thoughtfully picked for the role that it plays in Miles. But it got me, man. It got me so hyped at the end when I knew it was ending. When we see all the Gwen's team now, and
Yes.
there was Noir and there was Porker, and I'm like, baby, we're getting the team back together.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
It's hype. It's a good hype moment.
It's a really good team.
Because
who's the other the Avatar girl is also there. I forget her name.
Spider Bite.
Spider-Bite.
She's the
Right, and she's also
the computer spider.
jumping in on the team, and I'm really happy about that. Yeah,
Penny is there with them, and like it's such a cool moment, because like Nicolas Cage said, like, oh no, I'm not in Across the Spider-Verse. I didn't return as Noir, and like, baby, I'm so excited to hear you back for Beyond.
Yeah, I was worried. I didn't know if he would be in the next one or not, but like him not being in this one, I wasn't totally bummed out. But like, he is in that next one for sure now, and I'm like, oh, they knew what they were doing. They had to save the best for last, baby. Hell yeah!
Mm-hmm.
So excited! Like, I cannot wait to see that kind of fight.
And the final nugget of this movie in Earth 42, Little Prowler. Oh my god, I love it. I love his design. Miles looks like a little jerk.
That was the only time. That was one of the few times. That's kind of where I can pinpoint, like, we're maybe dragging this all along, because like the audience knows this is Miles. There's no one in the audience who doesn't know but this little prowler is Miles.
Yeah.
But they do take their sweet time revealing it.
That's why I feel, again, like the last 20 minutes, like I like everything that happens, but I just feel like they kind of extend everything out just a little bit. I'm like, I don't know how you cut it, but just
I also think that like once you are done doing the like Miles and Gwen are in the same room in different worlds.
Yes.
Then you only focus on Miles, and then you only focus on Gwen.
Yeah.
And so you leave Miles hanging on the bag, and you leave Gwen gathering the team, and you stop cutting between the two. And I think that made it feel longer, because we kept like jumping back and forth after that beat. And I think it should have just been, here's this beat, done.
Yeah.
And I think that is maybe just a slight misstep in the way they built the tension, because like we jump back and forth because of Miles getting knocked out and things like that.
Yeah.
I want to shout out that we have a new voice actor for Miles. That is Jarrell Jerome, not Shamik Moore.
Oh, it wasn't
voicing
him.
No,
I just assumed it was him.
He is voicing Miles G. Morales, the Prowler.
That's awesome.
For Earth 42.
That's cool. When Aaron walked in, like I saw it coming, but like it's still an awesome reveal, dude. Like it is so sick. And like, Uncle, I missed you. And like he hands money to his mom, like, we're still family. And I'm like, no, Jeff. Oh no, Jeff, no.
Right.
You know, it's so messed up that Miguel talks about like losing captains as like a thing that's supposed to happen, when like Gwen's Uncle Ben moment is losing Peter. And it's such a messed up moment to have Miguel telling Miles, you were never supposed to be Spider-Man. Like, what does that mean for Gwen too? Obviously Gwen is meant to be the spider of her universe, but she's not a Peter Parker. She's the only Gwen Stacy in the entire multiverse who became Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, such an interesting, like, man, F you, Miguel.
And again, I can't get over the fact that Miguel, this whole thing kind of started with him like taking the body of another dead Spider-Man. Like the foundation is rotten, y'all. We got to burn the whole thing to the ground.
Something.
Oh, I love. Sorry. Quickly, I love her new costume.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks cool. I love the over the fingerless gloves, with the pink spider with the pink webbing. Love it. Thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I like all the costume designs and the new ones that we get in this one.
Chris Anka, you're the best. You're the best in the West.
Nope, it's gone.
John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel bad now.
No, it happens. It'll come back.
Happens to them all.
It'll come back.
Happens to every Peter Parker.
It's that I think that there's like too strong a language played on the captain thing, because I feel like it's just like there's supposed to be another like loss, you know, like of that. It gets shown through the captains, But like we know that's not always like you know that's not always part of the story. Like you could argue that like the captain lost for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man isn't the captain, it's Harry, right? Like it's not going to be that same consistent like it's the captain lost.
Yeah.
But we get really married to that language, and I don't think that was necessarily supposed to be the point, but I get it because like it's a cleaner way to make the connection between Captain Stacy, Captain.
I'll tell you what,
Morales,
like I agree with you, but like I think someone actually brought this up. Like that can actually be a plot point for the next movie. Of like you're not even consistent with your own rules,
right?
Like you're governing the universe in what you think is right, and you're not even consistent with your own self.
And we pointed out that like Miguel O'Hara's whole thing is based around like things that don't add up if you really look at it.
And we talk, Yuri Lowenthal is back as PS4 Spider-Man, and like we see him. His losing the captain moment, right, was Jefferson Davis, but Miles' losing his uncle moment is Jefferson Davis. So like even like it's not consistent throughout all the worlds. This isn't always meant to happen in every world. We've seen it already.
Miguel will make it work so everybody does suffer just because that's what he thinks everyone should do.
He is Jefferson Morales as of this film, no longer Jefferson Davis.
Oh, I didn't notice they changed his name.
They did that on purpose because this happened in the comics too.
Yes.
And it's because Jefferson Davis is not. He's not a
Confederate leader in the Civil War.
Yeah. And it's not a good name for a black man.
Yeah, it was one of the Bendis's oopsies.
So that happened in comics canon. They also did it in this movie where they changed it. So he's Captain Morales. You'll see his badge says Morales now.
Jefferson's. Oh, I haven't read the original Miles Morales comics in a long time, but he was not in the picture, his dad, initially. That was changed when Secret Wars happened, right?
Sparks? I want to know, in the Ultimate Universe, are you talking in the Ultimate Universe?
Yeah.
Venom kills his father.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
In the Ultimate Universe, Venom killed his dad.
I see, okay.
Yeah. So, but that's something that they changed in the comics at a certain point was that, was pointed out and they were like, okay, so in the comic story, like Jefferson says that like my dad was a terrible person.
He wants
I've changed my name to his wife's because I don't want to carry that.
I don't want my son to have my father's legacy. That's
why I don't want my son to have it either. And so that is changed in the Spider-Verse film now too. He's not Jefferson Davis, he is now Jefferson Morales. Which I thought was a very thoughtful thing where they took the lesson as well from what people were talking about. That was a long time ago that they were making that movie. Like that was 2016 the movie was being developed. So like they heard the responses and they were like, absolutely, let's change.
Also, hey, if I was married to Rio Morales, that lady is like the coolest lady on the planet. Like, I'll take her name. No problem.
So I definitely want to highlight, like, for me, watching the trailer. I think it was the first trailer for this movie, and it's the one where we're getting Rhea's conversation and speech over the music and over some of the visuals from Across the Spider-Verse. And I definitely got in that moment the vibes of like Jefferson's dying in this movie.
Yes.
And I've been afraid of that because to me, I really like Brian Tyree Henry's performance. I really like Jefferson Davis. It's one of my problems with the Spider-Man game before the Miles Morales game was made that Jefferson died.
Yes.
And so I was really hoping that the Spider-Verse films wouldn't go there. Sitting in the theater today and then having it be that moment not be related to that at all, which really emotionally got me because like, whew, that made me cry. But then knowing that the movie is about Miles saying actively, my dad doesn't have to die. That gives me a lot of hope and like, really wonderful. Like we can have the storytelling where he's got his dad and his mom, and we don't have to do that to Miles. That doesn't have to be the way this goes. And I'm really, really excited that not only are they seeming to steer away from that, but that's actively a story point of saying, that shouldn't have to happen for Spider-Man stories to work. This shouldn't have to be a thing. And Absolutely. So like, I'm really, really psyched that that's the direction we went. I really like all of the parent stuff, how they're trying to connect to Miles. We didn't touch on it a lot because there's a lot in this movie, but the bit where Miles is as Spider-Man trying to connect with Jefferson in a way that he can't right now as Miles because he's
how's your son doing?
Really great scene. Brian Tyree Henry, is killing it. I love that Rhea gets so much more as his mom in this. I think she's excellent.
I love, again, like just like the first movie, like there's so much the Spanish being spoken, and like they don't feel the need to put subtitles on for us whiteys. And I just like, that's fine. Like I think that's awesome.
Can't wait for the subtitles to say speaking native language.
That's true. That's true. That's so funny. I'm so excited, man. I don't
to that point.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they had Rhea give a strong definition of like, you're an immigrant struggling in this way. Puerto Rico is part of America.
Yeah,
and really glad that they hammered that.
You're all struggling. You know, I'm a cop. Like I'm like, you know, we live in a decent house. Like you're all struggling. What's your story?
we can afford an apartment in Brooklyn. I don't think.
I'm about to be captain next week.
That was really charming. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love when he's getting the cakes and he gets there and what does the cake say?
I'm not proud.
I'm not proud.
Or even when he's arguing with his parents and she's like, "Mom doesn't even have a driver's license. She doesn't need to. We live in New York and we'll never leave."
Yeah. And what I love about this movie is like this is a really funny movie. Like I forget, like that first one's really, but there's a lot of great comedy, like Lord Miller or comedic geniuses. But like there's like you cry, like I cried too. Like there's so much good drama. Like in the middle of like their big barbecue, they have a fight, and once Miles says whatever. Dude, I was a teenager. They used to say whatever to his mom, and boy, howdy, does she not like it. Yeah. So the second he said whatever, I'm like, Miles, my guy.
I did the same thing. I was
whatever.
Like,
yeah, it's not real.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, that got flashbacks from whenever my parents were yelling at my brother. I was like, ooh, this
2 months.
Good.
I definitely had that moment. I definitely had that moment where like the parent moment, not even the parent moment, like the bystander moment where you're like in the moment and she's like, whatever. And you're like, oh boy.
So I shouldn't have said it. Just walk it back. Walk it back.
Walk it back. Just back it up. Back it up.
The poor DJ is like trying to make the music louder so no one else can hear. He's like,
man, I don't generally, because at this point in our lives, like movies come out on VOD so fast, but like there is so much visual splendor and like so much fun and love in this movie. Like I really do want to see it on the big screen again, just because like no matter how nice my 4K TV is, like it will never beat like a big screen. And like I can never get this experience again unless it's just re-shown in theaters in a year or whatever. So like I don't want to wait for the next Spider-Verse movie. Like I read like 20 Spider-Man comics this weekend. Like I'm Jones for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I want to see it again too. It's so solid. The emotionality is really good. I think the one other thing that we haven't so much. The one other thing I want to spotlight is Miles has a very excellent montage of like, let me catch you up to speed. And I got a mustache, made another apology.
His YouTube apologies. Yeah.
Hey, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I read a 2099 comic, and Lila, the digital lady that was helping Miguel, that's a thing from the comics from the 90s too. So like that's cool. You know, they obviously did their research and all this stuff.
One other thing I pointed out to Ryan when we were talking about it off air is that I was really hoping going into this movie that when they did because I expected there to be a little bit of like the reference to the story that's happened before for the characters. So when they throw the comics back down, it wasn't a new pile. It was on top of the pile from Into the Spider-Verse. And I really, really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Love it.
Okay. Shall we rate it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. I have a feeling this is gonna be another one of those Andors, baby. Got a feeling.
Ben.
10 out of 10. Absolutely perfect. As of this moment in time, the best Spider-Man film ever made. Of course, Beyond hasn't come out yet. That might change. But if Beyond is just as good as Across and Into, the Spider-Verse films could be the best Spider-Man trilogy ever. Hands down, no discussion, no debate. It is by far the most emotional, most beautifully made animation. If these films, while other animated films are making great impacts, I feel like this one is going to continue and make an even greater impact in the animation world and get more people to be like, animation is not just for kids. Yes, this is a comic movie. Yes, this is made for families. When I was in my theater, I had a lot of kids around me, but the stories that are told in these films, the stories that are the way that it's being portrayed so that everyone can enjoy it. You don't have to be a Spider-Man fan to love these movies. 10 out of 10. Hands down, the best Spider-Man film made up to this point in time.
Ryan?
Yeah, it's absolutely a 10 out of 10. If I could, I would give it 11 out of 10. Like truly, it's like, again, it's like so much effort was made. It was put in this movie, and there's not a single frame of like, we shouldn't work this hard today. Like every single day, like these guys put their whole ass into it, and it's like
whole ass.
Their whole ass. Not a cheek was left out. This is already. Like I wasn't worried about it making a lot of money, but like a big movie like this, I wanted to succeed, and it is the biggest like opening weekend of the year so far. I think next to Mario, and I'm like, that's incredible.
I'm really happy to see that because I had expected that Into the Spider-Verse's popularity only grew after it left theaters because the theater box office wasn't great for Into the Spider-Verse. It was respectable, but it wasn't great. And what we're seeing with Across the Spider-Verse is that very thing happened. People were watching Into the Spider-Verse and now have come to Across the Spider-Verse, and it's making even more money. I love it.
And we're a year or less away from the next one. So like they're just spit polishing that thing, baby. And like we're gonna I have no doubt it's gonna be
March,
good.
I think right now.
That's less than a year. That's crazy.
June.
I just
That's
looked it
like,
up.
Okay.
well, exactly 1 year from now. It's still 10 out of 10. Like I actually might try to see this again.
It is actually exactly a year from today.
Hell yeah.
Sparks?
10 out of 10. Easily. So hands down. 100%. We talked about it as long as we could, and I'm sure there's more I could have dug out, but like I think we covered a really good round of it. It's impressive because of how strong its thematic and emotional story is at its heart. What it's saying is really great. What it's saying about Spider-Man as a moniker, as a character, as an ideal hero is so strong. I really like it. I really like what it sets up. It's visually stunning. Beyond what the first one did, it is opening new doors in animation once again. It's just blowing us away. The fact that it can do everything it did and just somehow take what Into the Spider-Verse gave it and just keep on pushing, keep on elevating. Like, it's so impressive. How could it not be? How could it not be?
Real
10
quick,
out of 10.
Real quick before you go, Brandon. And it's like, again, after reading Amazing Spider-Man 26 this week and just seeing just like the disarray that character is in right now, I'm just like, man, like this movie, it's just like, it is like a direct message of like, why do we have to do it this way? Why do we have to just kill people to sell comics, to make Peter, like it's truly incredible that these came out the same week that Amazing Spider-Man 26 and this came out, because it's like a direct, like obviously this movie was made years ago, but it's just so funny how the world works that way. I just like this is a really important movie, not just for animation, but for like Spider-Man in this current pop culture world. And I hope this movie has ramifications for the comics, because like, boy howdy, if there's any synergy we need, it's freaking Miles in Spider-Man in the comics.
And for representation.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I really love this movie. I think it's gorgeous. I really love the stuff they do with Gwen Stacy. What that pacing issue that I mentioned up top is a factor for me, more so than I wish, which is why I wanted to see it a second time, see if that smoothed over. But right now, because I don't like it as much as the first one, which is a 10 out of 10 for me, this one is a 9.5.
Sure. That's all perfect. That's totally cool. I love it.
Okay. Shall we go into our book club then?
Buzz, buzz. That's not what spiders do.
Oh, yeah.
Picture time. Picture time.
All right. Sparks, it is your turn on the book club. Take it away.
Okay, hey friends, we're reading Ben Reilly Spider-Man, 5 issues that came out last year from J.M. DeMatteis as writer and David Baldeón as artist, Israel Silva as colorist, and VC's Joe Carmanaga as letterer. This was fun. It's a story set during the time when Peter and Mary Jane are away in Portland, and Ben has stepped into the role of Spider-Man living in New York. So it's back in the 90s, friends. Like it's another
Late
one,
90s.
just like when we did Superior Spider-Man. Like we're going back in time and telling a story in that time period. But it's all about how Ben is adjusting with the knowledge in his mind that he is the original Peter Parker, because that's what he believed at the time. And I think that's really solid stuff. I think that's really fun to explore with Ben, trying to figure out what he wants in this idea of, I'm not going to be Peter anymore, but I'm going to linger around New York. And I'd like, the only time he feels himself is being Spider-Man. And I think the way that they bring it around with another clone creation created by the Jackal Spider Side for this story and what it means to them, I think is really, really good. I think this was a cool idea. I like the execution. I love the art. I love the art.
This is David.
I love the art.
We all read X Factor by Leah Williams with the Donna Cocoa. David Baldeón. Incredible talent.
But yeah, I want to hear what you thought, friends.
I'll go next. I loved it. I think it's great. Again, I also read a bunch of Spider-Man, so I was just primed for it. But again, like when we read that symbiote Spider-Man book, like I'm primed now for old school books, and I love James DeMatteis. He did Kraven's Last Hunt, which was what my last Spider-Man book loved, and that book's perfect. This is just a great continuation. I really like James DeMatteis as a writer. That dude's like a novelist, so like that dude is like a writer's writer. Like that dude has prose for days. I love Ben's internal dialogue. I love it. Like he's got a full grasp of this character because he's written him so much.
I was gonna say, now the scale is obviously different, but would you say that that he is to Ben Reilly what Chris Claremont is to the X-Men? That is a different scale of character, but not a lot of people have done that.
He is like the prominent '90s guy.
Right.
Like he is unfortunately like one of the masterminds behind the Clone Saga. Not everyone's perfect,
For sure.
but yeah, absolutely. Like him revisiting this character is absolutely like Peter David revisiting symbiote Spider-Man because he wrote that era. So like it's totally in line. All the characterization's great. Y'all, Spider-Side is not a character I thought I would ever see again, but because I don't, I'm not gonna read old school comics anymore. But I thought this was great. Like Lady Octopus showing up, all these old school villains, like this being like a late '90s book that came out in 2022. I had a really good time.
Ben, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'll go next. I absolutely highly enjoyed it. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I highly enjoyed it. But also, what I loved about this book is how it's not just like all punchy in the face, but it's also like, let's talk about things. Let's dive into like mental health. Let's talk to Ben Reilly. Ben, how are you feeling? And then even when Ben kind of gives that really bad or that really snide remark to Edward, aka the Vermin, about the monster always coming back, and then the next issue he's like, hey, that wasn't cool of me, I'm sorry. And then they build a friendship because Ben Reilly, issue 1 of this 5-issue miniseries, he was all, I don't like friends. We know friends. But then he grows to have friends. He opens up to Ashley more and more and more. And then he starts actually having real therapy sessions with her and sees her as a friend. And I mean, even talks to John, even though John started becoming very possessive.
Stalking.
And then it's revealed that, oh, he was the villain this whole time. Like he was the first date killer or the first date murderer. But I mean, the action in this I almost said movie. The action in this book is great. And I have to agree with Sparks as well. The art is absolutely phenomenal. I will not lie. When I saw the cover art, the covers from issues 2 to 5, I was kind of, but thankfully the interior art was absolutely chef's kiss beautiful.
This is what's so funny because those covers are by Steve Skroke, who is like a really talented guy who does Godzilla shit and like in independent shit. His covers are really weird for superhero stuff. It's not his traditional back. So it was weird that he was on a Spider-Man cover thing.
Yeah, I felt like he was trying to throw back to the time period.
Sure.
Like he was trying to evoke what the art looked like for the 90s.
It's definitely, his style is just really unique for superhero books. You don't see it often.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. I mean, if I wasn't a big fan of anything, it'd just be the covers. But once again, I'm only looking at the covers for a hot second. The interior art is absolutely amazing. And just the subject matter, and even when Ben is fighting the Carrion, or when he's fighting, and instead of just punching his lights out and calling it a day, he's talking to him. He's like, "Why are you doing this?" And then it's revealed that I lost my mom, and I need the pain to go away, and this is the only outlet I know how. And I'm just like, this isn't a Spider-Man book where Spider-Man's a character who deals with grief all the time. I mean, if you look back in the history of comics, Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, Aunt May, so many characters die, and so many loved ones die in Spider-Man's life. And here's a character, and here's a Spider-Man, Ben Reilly, who was also going through his own emotional trauma. But instead of him thinking the answer is punch him in the face, that solves all my problems, instead of giving a fist, he gives an open hand. Right. And that is a very impactful part of this book and why this book is so well done. Yes, you get the great superhero fight scenes, which I still think are really fun, but the meat of the bones, the parts where I was really interested in, was Ben unraveling his own trauma, his own insecurities. And as someone who's also currently going to therapy and seeking help for my own mental problems, I really resonated with that, and I just loved how the problem isn't solved with a punch to the face, but it's resolved by talking. I want to say it's in the last issue where he talks, or the second to last issue, where he's talking to Spider-Side and straight up says, "Let's talk this out."
Yep.
To talk, we don't fight. Let's just talk.
Duplicide.
And I also feel that that's not an avenue that a lot of comic books take, because yes, we pick up superhero comic books. We expect action, we expect high octane punching and fighting and all this cool stuff, amazing powers on display. But the fact that Ben doesn't want to do that, he wants to talk first and then is resorted to punching because the other guy threw the first punch, I think is very impactful and powerful.
Love it.
Yeah, I had a pretty good time with this one. I'm not not as crazy about it as you guys. I did like it. I did enjoy it. I really like the artwork, and a lot of the character work. But that's kind of where I don't really have a lot to say other than that. I do agree. I think it's really interesting that we do dive into this kind of mental health space with Ben Reilly, and him learning how to accept friends. That's all really, really interesting ground for this comic that I didn't really expect to see. Yeah, that's really all I've got though.
I didn't expect so much body horror, scary stuff in this book. I love it. I love Spider-Side. Once he's revealed to be the villain, I gave it like a hearty chuckle because it's like one of like the most ridiculous characters from the 90s during the Clone Saga shit. And the fact that like J.M. David Hayes is repurposing this like really silly character and like giving him like pathos and meaning and like the stuff like Ben, you brought it up, but like the stuff that's like it needs to be destroyed. I can't stop thinking of it as an it. That's my brother. He might look like a monster, but also I am not the original person. I'm not original either. I'm just like he is. Like
no, he thinks he is.
He
thinks he's the
at this point.
right
Yeah. Which another retcon, which is stupid later. But yeah, like all this clothing stuff, like James David Thomas makes it work out, and it brings a lot of like humanity to it. Which again, that's my favorite shit. Like, what does it mean to be human? Like, are you a clone? Are you a robot? Does that make you alive? That kind of shit.
But he's like, sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that what I found kind of interesting about he thinks he's the real Peter Parker at this point, but he also can feel Spider-Side, which should be the cue that he's not the real Peter Parker. And so like clearly the story is telling Ben Reilly, hey, you're not actually the real Peter Parker. Even Ben Reilly kind of instinctively knows in the way that he's talking about it, like we're brothers, things like that. But it's not really clicking for him yet because it's not a realm of possibility. Now he's gotten his life back. He's like, no, I am the real Peter Parker. He won't accept that's what the signs are telling him, kind of on a subtextual level.
It is so interesting, like being a clone of somebody and having all of their memories. That is a really interesting thing to live with and grapple. Again, he is technically the real person, but like he had a time in his life where that wasn't him, and like that is just so fascinating. And then having your brother come and try to kill you, and he's a big shapeshifter is really, really funny. Real quick, Vermin showing up again. Like, I'm so glad now that we read Kraven's Last Hunt, because now Ben, you know who that character is. Like, you guys know. So like, it's a through line of James Mateus just like working with characters that he created, and I think it's great.
And the references to Kraven's suicide here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What I like about what you were saying with like the memories and everything, I really like the page where Ben is just standing across from the Parker home, and he's just thinking about memories that he's like, they belong to me, but I guess now they can't belong to me. And like, there's good memories and bad memories, but I'm leaving that behind because I'm choosing to be this other person. I want to be Ben Reilly.
In a way, this book like kind of like is like I don't know what the right word is, like a companion piece to Across the Spider-Verse. It's like, you don't have to do it like the Peter Parker way. Like, you are not Peter Parker. You can do it your own way.
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised to get into this book and have it be a period where Aunt May was dead.
Yes.
Yep.
Which is fun. It was like, oh right, that was a thing for a very long time.
Yeah, everyone dies and comes back, and they're like in comic books these days, I guess. Yeah. I took so many pictures of like spooky shit, like again, like Spider-Side and like Carrion, like all like the crazy Doctor Strange. I think that's Doctor Strange. Or what? Craven. It's Craven. Spooky as hell. Love it.
Because
yeah,
I did
the big version.
Because I did not know who Spider-Side was prior to reading this book. I was like, that can't be Clayface. What's going on here? But I want to say, I did have one last thing. I had never seen this Lady Octopus character before, and I'm kind of in love with her.
Oh yeah. Back like 80s and 90s, like, hey, what if we made that character but we just called her Lady this? Thank God Jane Foster wasn't called Lady Thor, right? Just fun. All of these like old school villains showing up again, like it's always fun because a lot of them don't show up in modern times as much. So like seeing them, Lady Octopus is like relegated to the past, but like you can bring them back.
I really like Mysterio jumping in and
he was locked in prison,
working on the same side and like getting rid of Mr. Hyde.
Mr. Hyde's cool.
I'm an artist, and this is a bunch of psychos.
Yeah.
I will not be lumped into these charlatans.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I thought that was really good. I really like. Yeah, you said it earlier, but like the pathos of Spider-Side, like where he's coming to the conclusion later of like, I am just like you and we are part of each other, and connecting with him and changing his face to match Ben's and everything, and then that being him, like giving him life, saving him, and thus ending his own. And you have that like weird, like ambiguous but sad last moment of like what he comes up and like goes to strangle Ben, and there's like this look of sadness after that, and then he's gone. And like you could look at that a lot of ways. You could look at that as him realizing that, to his knowledge, like knowing in that moment that he's not Peter Parker.
Yeah,
he's also a clone or something like that. But there's all kind of ways you can interpret it. But yeah, I just think it's really cool to do this kind of storytelling. I enjoy going back and putting fresh, more modern, thoughtful ideas about mental health, about like what it is to be Spider-Man, what it is to be some of these characters at that time. Going back to this time period where these things were not as thoughtful, and like inserting these stories that bring more of that analysis to it.
Absolutely, yeah, and like James DeMatteis, he's like a really like thoughtful writer. Like again, like Kraven's Last Hunt, that's a book that came out in the 80s, and that book is like half of it's like silent and just like really like introspective. So like I'm glad you picked this. James DeMatteis also did that Juggernaut miniseries, which is way better than any Juggernaut book has a right to be. Like he's just one of those guys that like he was prominent in like the 80s and 90s, but like he still got it. Like he didn't lose his touch, I think. Yeah.
All right.
You got
anything
the
else?
touch.
I really like Ben Reilly. This is the good times with Ben Reilly before they like really mess around with the character. And I love the suit. Ben Reilly's cool.
He's a very cool guy.
Suit's really nice.
All right. Well, Ben, it's your book club next week. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, so you guys remember how in the pre-show I said I didn't have any idea? Well, I lied. I do have an idea. We're talking Transformers Rise of the Beast, so I'm going with one of IDW's Beast Wars books. I am picking Transformers Beast Wars The Gathering, written by Simon Furman and drawn by Don Figueroa.
Nice.
All right.
Four-issue miniseries. I think it'll be a fun little jaunt in Beast World, in a Beast Wars world. I've never read it before. I just remember seeing the cover once. And I figured, you know what? Let's just give it a shot. Hopefully it's decent, because last time I did this, it was not a good book.
4-issue miniseries. How old is this one? Do you know?
Ooh, let me double check. When did this come out?
If you can't easily get the information, it's okay.
I haven't.
February 2006.
Oh, cool. I haven't read or watched anything Beast Wars related since I was a youth, so this will be fun.
Yep.
Well, Ryan, next week we're going to be talking about the entire show, so get caught up. God, I would never suscept anyone to that right now. I don't think you can watch the show right now.
I remember it was on Netflix for a while.
We live on the internet. I can find anything, anytime, all at once.
Not you, just in general.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's it. That's as Ben said, next week we're going to talk about Transformers Rise of the Beast. Sparks, you will not be here, however.
I won't be.
Goodbye. Happy trails.
Thanks.
He's rolling out.
Maybe I'll be back after that. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back in a flash.
Yeah, the week after is the Flash. But get ready for our 7th anniversary special. That our anniversary is coming up. It is June 12th, the day that we started this podcast. June 12th, 2016. And the anniversary special will be coming up on that day this year. So stay tuned.
Whoop whoop. Love it.
Cool. Okay, so guys, subscribe. Check out all the shows on this podcast. On this podcast network. Subscribe to us. Like us. You can check out my audio show Conversation, which recently released a new episode, which is linked below, with Cookie from Just a Little Podcast. Had a great time talking to him. Check it out. I'll say more about what my next guest is next week, so stay tuned. On this channel, you can check out all sorts of shows, such as Fake Nerds Watch, our TV after show, Basement Arcade, our video game Let's Play series, our Basement Arcade pause menu, video game discussion series, mini Basement Arcade pause menu in the description now. Check that out. Fake Nerd Book Club, comic books, animation. New episodes of that coming soon, relatively. We'll see. And The Real Score, our newest show. Give it some love. Oh, Fake Nerds Watch, by the way. This week I'm dumping Star Trek Strange New World Season 1 Fake Nerds Watch episodes on the audio feed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. Cool. Check out our Patreon. Check out our TeePublic if you'd like to support us financially. We greatly appreciate it. Grayson Live says in the comments, just like Ryan said, binging Beast Wars, it can be found. Yes.
Yep. And then, of course, he follows that up with, thanks so much for the show. Always enjoy hanging out and hearing your take on things while getting updated on topics. You're
Thank you,
welcome, my
Grayson.
friend.
Here's an update for you. Our website, still not found. Don't know where it is. It's gone forever, maybe.
Bummer.
Wow.
We'll see what happens with that later. If anything, who knows? All right. Thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to everyone who watches the live show. Thank you to everyone who watches the replay. We greatly appreciate all of your support. I know I always ask you guys to support us financially, but the support that you give us just by watching this is enough. But make sure you like it. Like it, guys. Yeah, subscribe too. Yeah. Definitely like it. Definitely like it.
So easy a caveman can do it.
We just cracked 300 subscribers on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did that a while ago.
It's been a while. We've plateaued a little bit.
Sure
Hey,
did.
300 subscribers, though. Not bad.
Not bad.
I'm still happy about it.
All thanks to Black Adam.
We just gotta call everything mid. We just gotta be more negative. We
gotta do it.
Unfortunately, that is the way.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you to Jeremy Bellucci. Mag, take care, gang. Catch you next time. Safe, sir. Thank you to Jeremy Bellucci, new host on the Faker Podcast Family Podcast for the Real Score. You can check out his other podcast, Suburban Proctologist, at Facebook, Suburban Proctologist Official, Instagram at Subproc Podcast, or you can find him on Instagram at Jeremy Bellucci _Wreck of Time. So check him out, please. Thank you to Mike Matola, wonderful collaborator and wonderful friend of ours, did a couple of our logos. You can find him at Mike Matola on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you again. Subscribe to us. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Fakener Podcast. FakenerGuys@gmail.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us personally, I'm at BC McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me writing for CBR.com, KaijuRamaMedia.com, and AtomicGeekdom.com. Ben?
You can find me still exploring the beautiful land that is Hyrule at BenMagnet27 on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also find me writing for Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, Old School Gamer Magazine, which actually, funny enough, the latest issue of Old School Gamer Magazine just came out. You
didn't tell me this.
I totally forgot, honestly. It was just right now I mentioned it. I have an article in here about a game developer / publisher called Absolute Entertainment, because they are guys who essentially did the Activision thing, whereas they used to work for a company and then they left to make their own. Funny enough, the company they used to work for before was Activision. So there you go. I wrote a little article about them in there. And also you can catch me playing Mary Frankenstein on D & Dark with new episodes coming out on Wednesdays. Link is down below.
Sparks? I almost called you Rocks. I'm sorry.
Rock
Sparks.
Well, put your underwear on, ladies, because we're getting... you can find me eagerly counting down the days until Beyond the Spider-Verse at SparksWitty on Instagram, Twitter, SPARKZWitty. I'm gonna put a little counter on my Twitter and Instagram. That's how excited I am. I won't, but I might.
Ryan.
You could find me waiting 525,600. That's a year, right? Is that a year?
Yes, yeah.
525,600 minutes. Also for Spider-Verse, because
that's how you measure a year.
That's the only thing I learned from Rent.
Daylights, sunsets, midnights, cups of coffee.
I just like Spider-Man. He's really cool, and all the different Spider people at DJ Tony Snark 616.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podcast, and Pandora. Rate and review wherever you get us. We greatly appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next time you see us, guys, stay fake nerds.